जादू मंतर, जादू मंतर, जादू मंतर। You are going into the future.
You talking to me?
They always be these clothing.
Talking to me?
Queen is dead.
Hello. I'm Sanjeet. I have Amartya, Cris, and Dhruv in a special appearance for this episode.
Or not so special. We'll find out very soon. Bye.
That's a great comeback. Basically, we'll be discussing about the indie releases that have happened in the month of September in India, which is very rare considering post-pandemic, because these films sort of disappeared getting any release of any sort in, let alone cinemas, on OTT also essentially. And there was a constant talk about these films getting some sort of some sort of exhibition in some sort. And like I think Vikramaditya Motwani was talking about some platforms which would take a fee as donation. Like there was Movie Saints, putting out films. Some of them, which
Is that platform
if
even
you-
alive now?
it is actually. They sent us an email for they could sponsor an episode.
Yikes.
Oh, really? Wow.
It is there on Quid Instagram
Okay.
page.
Oops. Oops. Sorry,
um,
काट देना. Potential sponsor है, ऐसे नहीं करना चाहिए, काट देना.
But we'll be talking about the multiple films that came out this month, but we'll be talking about specifically 4 films, which are Homebound, Jugnuma, Sabar Bonda, and
Humans in the Loop.
Humans in the Loop. So these 4 films we'll be talking about. More or less every film has had some sort of backing in terms of big names getting attached as like presenters or executive producers, which have gotten some of these films a fair enough release and a good enough premiere, at least in Bombay, so that there are like some big names that end up watching those movies. Homebound more so than most, because Karan Johar's Dharma is attached to
As Sanjeet is saying that his internet is lagging because धर्मा के नाम पर ही बंद हो गया internet.
पूरा नाम क्या लिखते हो?
चंदन कुमार ही है सर.
गोत्र? मोहम्मद शोएब.
जी सर.
हमारा बॉटल अंदर करो.
हमको नहीं जाना दुबई, यहीं रहना है. रोज रोज जलील होना है.
एक बार हम सिपाही बन गए, साला किसी के बाप में हिम्मत नहीं होगी हमको घर आने की.
सोएब हम चाहे जितने विकेट उखाड़, एक सरकारी फार्म की कैटेगरी वाले डिब्बे भर की औकात है हमारी, और बस वहीं तक सीमित है. वही हमारी पहचान.
तो पहचान वो नहीं है बे जो हमें पकड़ाई गई. पहचान तो वो है जो हम खुद बनाते हैं.
Now your internet is fine, Sanjeet.
Internet
Try
is
and
fine.
mention Dharma
Fine.
without breaking connections.
Yes. So Homebound more so a bigger name amongst the indie releases because it is produced by Dharma, which has Karan Johar as one of the presenters, and also Martin Scorsese as one of the executive producers.
Sorry, I just want to just butt in for 1 second. Martin
Hanji.
Scorsese has executive producer credits on an absolutely abysmal
I know.
film recently.
I know that
also.
Michael Fassbender film also, which both of us have seen.
Oh, the
that,
Snowman, that lovely film.
Snowman.
Oh, Jonas Bo. Oh, Jonas Bo.
No,
Fantastic.
this one was some like, this guy, you've seen this film, Chris.
Thomas Alfredson.
Thomas Alfredson's a very good director though.
Tinker Tailor Soldier
Soldier
Spy.
Spy.
Yeah, but Chris has seen this Oscar Isaac movie which leaked online in the hands
In the hand of Dante. In the hand of Dante.
whatever the director Julian Schnabel's
Julian-
son
Yeah.
made a film which I had to review, had the pleasure of reviewing, which is who made a film which is essentially a send-up of Taxi Driver, or like one of those
Oh.
Martin Scorsese films, but it is
So like the
absolutely abysmal.
240-second
Yes.
send up to
Yeah,
Taxi
but
Driver,
the spin is
basically.
that it's queer. It's a queer love story.
So
Sort of
the,
like
so the
Wow.
20-second queer
no,
send
it's
up
not
to Taxi
wow.
Driver.
It's not wow at all. You don't need
Yeah.
to watch it. It's very bad. My point is
Which
that
means I will
But
watch
the
it.
name
That's-
attached as an
Yes.
executive producer is more to do with just getting clout.
of
Someone,
course.
if someone advantages off of someone's name,
Yes.
it's just a better thing to have, no, essentially.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
from whatever
Karan
interviews
Johar ka
I have,
Karan Johar ka interviews देख के you would understand only. He's like, I can't believe my name is with Martin Scorsese. I'm like, हाँ हमें भी नहीं पसंद है, but ठीक है चलो.
please, Amartya, not right away.
What?
My
It's
point is,
true.
my point is, from whatever interviews I watched, Scorsese was almost helping out in the process of the making of the film, from the writing to editing as well. So there is a little bit of him involved in sort of like consulting, nature
Is
of
this
it.
the
Or
same sort of Alfonso Cuarón with
The Disciple.
yes,
Chaitanya
The
Tamhane?
Disciple.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
It's a
all
great
of us
film.
will unanimously agree, irrespective of whatever the films represent, was a way superior film. And
Chris hasn't seen The
The
Disciple, have you?
Disciple, yeah, The
I
Disciple
have
is
not
very good.
seen.
yeah,
It's
which
Disciple is
is
very
terrific.
good.
just out of
Yeah.
this
One of the
world,
better
actually.
Indian films of the past how many ever years, I would say.
Yeah,
But that's my
at
personal.
least in this decade only, essentially, whatever
I
5
would say
years
so.
into this
Yeah.
decade, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, talking about Homebound directed by Neeraj Ghaywan, who previously directed his last feature in 2015 with Masan, which was a sort of big indie release in that year and sort of garnered a cult status also post its release, because it reached out to a lot of people via, I don't know if it did well on satellite, but definitely on OTT platforms
Sure.
around 2016, 17.
It won something
Uh,
at Cannes, did it or not?
I mean, no, it didn't win, but
It
it
didn't
was
win,
part of the
but
uncertain regard,
yeah.
whatever the pronunciation is, but
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
just like
the
enunciate
whatever that
the
is,
name
yes.
as is. And again, Homebound was again the same selection in the same category,
Sure.
10 years later. But in the middle, he directed a short film called Juice with Shefali Shah, which was really good.
It's on YouTube.
Which is somewhere on YouTube.
Yes.
He directed second season of Sacred Games.
Sacred Games,
co-directed with Anurag Kashyap.
With Anurag Kashyap and Motwane didn't direct. Motwane was
Showrunner.
He was the showrunner, but
Showrunner,
yeah,
yeah.
Ghaywan directed.
He directed, I don't know what, I think 1 or 2 episodes in Made in Heaven season 2.
Made in Heaven season 2, and he
Which
did Ajib Dastan mein Gili Puchi.
Gili Pucci, which was a fantastic shot,
Fantastic
which Dhruv
shot,
already
yeah.
has spoken about.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I think even I did speak about it at
We've
some
all
point.
spoken about it
We've all
because
we've all
we
spoken
talked
about
about
it,
it
yeah.
best of, and then we recently discussed it in the queer
queer episodes
representation.
with Chris,
So, with
yeah,
Chris.
which everyone can check out, which
Yeah,
we
in
released
which we
last year. and it's
lavished a lot of praise, both of us.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
I'm setting the
Yeah.
table so that I don't get pitchforks.
No,
thrown at
you
me.
can
Just-
set in context as much as
Yeah.
you like, even though I know you don't give too much weightage to context in general. But
No, okay, fine. Go ahead.
but the point
क्या
is,
shade चल रहा है यहाँ पे.
I'm
no.
not saying anything. Yeah.
We'll start with Homebound synopsis, which, according to IMDb, states: two friends from a North Indian village pursue police jobs seeking dignity, but their friendship strains as desperation grows in their quest. To make it more clear, it has premiered in Cannes Film Festival this year, in Zurich International Film Festival, in TIFF Toronto, in Warsaw International Film Festival, and it is also selected as India's entry for Academy Awards this year.
It won the
So-
second runners-up audience award at TIFF.
Okay,
Yes.
that's an
And
interesting thing.
also just one more thing, the film is based on the article written by Bashrat Peer.
Bashrat
And-
Peer, yes.
It was in the
which
New
is
Yorker,
called
right?
New York
Was it the
Times.
New Yorker,
I forget
which
the
is
title. Let me see the title. Are you guys
Taking
bringing
Amrit
me?
Home.
Yes.
Yes,
Taking
yes.
Amrit Home. And amongst the four of us, Amartya hasn't seen the film. Dhruv, Chris, and I have.
Yeah.
And we'll try to be as away from spoilers. I don't know what accounts for spoilers, but at least from what was my experience with it, I thought it was better for me that I didn't know what happens later in the film.
Okay.
And also, I guess in Neeraj Ghaywan's interview with Bharadwaj Rangan, he also promptly said that it's better if not spoiled. So from the get-go, we will tell that after initial thoughts, there will be spoilers ahead. So
Yeah, I will.
we'll tell-
We'll put the warning when we are talking spoilers.
we'll put the
Yeah.
warning. So let's
Yeah.
go with initial thoughts. I think, Chris, you watched it amongst the first
You the
amongst us. So you
first.
go
Yeah.
be the first amongst us to tell about your thoughts.
Yeah, so the thing is, it's very interesting that I went into the film only having watched Gili Pucci of Ghaywan's work. My father, who I
Yeah.
went with, is actually a huge fan of Masan. And so he was actually much more looking forward to it than I was. And we got to watch it in an again almost empty theater, in like I think in mid-afternoon. And it was I have to say that I was extremely touched by the film. Like first off, like I cry pretty easy, but I was like tearing up throughout the entire experience. And I think what for me Ghewan captures is, and I will make a comparison here. It'll make much more sense when we go into the spoiler section, but I want to front load it a little bit here. Is the film that I was thinking about a lot when watching Homebound is last year's film by Blessy, which is Ardjividam, or The Goat Life. Because there's actually a lot of parallels
Is
between
that a good
these.
thing or a bad thing? Just interrupting you for
I
1
am
second.
saying that Homebound does in every aspect better what Ardjividam aspired to do.
Understood.
Okay, I know for
So
what element. I understand.
what
Okay.
element? But yeah, so I just thought that for me, what I've really appreciated about something like Gili Pucci is Ghewan's ability to talk about the marginalized without reveling in misery. Now, I know there will be disagreements on this, but that's for me what because I am very used to I watch a lot of cinema about the marginalized because it's also part of my work. And I am extremely sick of films that take almost a sadistic pleasure. And I've spoken about this before in reveling in the misery of its downtrodden. And that can be in two ways. One is you either have that the plot be just misery, 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 or you take a plot that makes sense, but you focus only on the misery. For me, what Homebound does really well is balance a sort of matter of factness almost with the way that it depicts what is in my like at least I had no idea that it was based on an actual story. So as I approached it as a text, it was just that it's it is a series of miserable events that take place, but there is this understanding that that's just how the world is, and it's not about it's about finding hope despite that, or at least in the misery of that. But that's why to me I think as a film, and I really liked both the lead performances. Ishan Khatter in particular is actually very good, and kudos to Ghewan for getting Janhvi Kapoor to deliver her 4 lines
She is not in
appropriately.
this movie that much, no?
She's
If I'm
barely
Yeah, I
in
mean,
it.
No.
she says
She's got
her
three
4 lines,
scenes.
Three,
and
four
her four
scenes
lines
max.
are
Yeah.
spoken pretty decently. It's
Yeah.
not she's not sticking out like a sore thumb.
There's only, I
just
would say, only one shot in which she sticks out, and but which is
Yeah, but
her
Yeah,
final
which
shot in
we
the
will
film.
talk about.
Yeah.
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 So
Okay. You already
it's
mentioned.
Yeah.
it sort of has got great, I think, moments. I think there are of like I think it does a good job of balancing like small banter, small moments between the characters, these really like emotional sections with the larger thematic implications. And I think that it much more than something like Gili Pucci works at a larger, almost allegorical level than a sort of to me at least, sort of personal detail level, something like Gili Pucci works, where it's about something more that it's than than the sort of brass tacks of the story that's playing out. And I think that it does pretty well, because I know at least obviously I don't have the experience of marginalization that these characters have, but as someone who has at least some level of relation to, particularly for example someone like Khatter's character being a Muslim in India, I know what Ghewan is going for in those moments, and I felt them very strongly sitting there in the hall. So I came out of it very emotionally stirred in a very good way. And I was like, it felt almost cathartic to a certain extent. It's also very like eye-opening in a sense, not in the sense that in that sort of reflective sense that there's a standard criticism of such a film that this film will never reach the people it's actually intended for. It will reach people like us who already agree with it and already empathize with people in such a situation. But there is still a facing of the actual gritty real life cruelties of the world that is still important, regardless of where we are and what power we hold to do anything about it. So that was sort of my headspace as I'm coming out of Homebound.
Dhruv, you wanna go?
No, I think it's
You
better
can-
you go. I think because I suppose it's a sort of Chris loves it, you really like it, and I don't like
Yeah.
it. So I guess it's that order.
Okay,
So
we'll go in that order particularly.
yeah,
Gradation of
yeah,
badness, basically, in terms of like.
yeah,
I really like Ghaywan as a director, not just because of his identity and
yeah.
the kind of voice he has, but also I feel he understands the medium really well.
Hmm.
Like understanding sometimes where to focus on visually and how to reach out to you as a viewer with what kind of information you want to give. So I really appreciate his prowess as a filmmaker because I feel he understands the medium, which I've already said. With Homebound, I think it started off really well for me actually, because I could see what he was really going for with the situation these characters would be in. Like, I don't know if that is fictional or if it is actually based off of the article.
I just read the article after watching the
Okay, I haven't
film.
read the article at
So
all.
there's a considerable amount of change made for dramatic purposes. Let's just say that in terms of a lot of the family dynamics and a lot of the even individual details. There's no mention of a girlfriend, for instance, in this in the article at least, and that might be a different aspect which Bashrat P's article doesn't explore, because an article like that is working on also other levels. Like it doesn't. The main objective of it is to inform and uh, you know inform, I think, more than anything else. But it is within informing that it can do a lot of other things, which I think the
Correct.
article does quite well.
Okay.
But anyways, there are lots of changes made for
Fair.
dramatic purposes, which is par
Yeah.
for the course. You do that, it's
Yeah.
not it's
Different
not
medium,
unusual.
no, to tell
Of
the
course,
story,
of course.
essentially.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really make sense according to
And
me, because if you go like cut to
also,
cut
I
adapt.
think one particular change, which I will mention later on, that feels very much a sort of how will this pass through the censor vote thing, which I was, because it's such a tremendous detail in the article that I was like shocked that they decided to jettison that particular instance in the film, because I was like, that's a wonderful moment, and I'm like, wonderfully dramatic, cathartic moment, and I was like, I can't believe they didn't do this. So in the film, and then I was like, oh well, of course they didn't, because our wonderful and certification board is so nice.
Of
So
course.
yeah.
So
And the other certification board, they're not the censor board, by the way. Yeah.
We are not
but yeah,
going there.
continuing from where I
भारत
left off,
सरकार है, ज्यादा
I
ज्यादा सच नहीं बोल सकते, गड़बड़ हो जाएगा.
True.
my continuing my point from where I left
Yeah.
off, I really like the way he sort of directs this thing. The point being, I realized towards the middle of the film, I'll divide the film in, let's say, 4 quarters, essentially. And the first quarter, when it sort of begins, I really liked how we entered the character and their lives in general. You get to know their aspirations and what they really aim for in their life.
Yeah.
But when we enter into the second quarter of the film, which essentially I thought every scene became too on the nose. Like, okay, dialogues are very much on the nose, but the scenes, from the get-go, you know what is going to happen in those scenes.
Yeah.
Like there is a sequence where there's an India-Pakistan match, and a character who's named Shoaib, which is Ishan Khattar's character. You know what is going to happen at the end of the day. So I know the idea is derived from some instances that happen in real life as well, but and they're all sort of incorporated in this film about how identity really works for these two characters. A character like Chandan, who belongs to backward classes, and how the character is sort of fighting to get out of that image and not be part of the same cycle as his family has been. And
Yeah.
Shoaib, who can't hide his identity because it literally is represented in the name,
Yeah.
is sort of discerning of the attitude that is towards him. So I like the idea of it, but then when the way the scenes are constructed felt like some sort of vignettes, but then they weren't going through beyond a certain level of drama for me particularly. But the way the film sort of culminates towards the end was the part where I really got affected by the film. Because I was like, okay, now I'm entering where these characters are more part of the system.
That's the article also.
Fair.
Yes. Yeah.
More part of the system, and that's where the drama sort of works for me more so, because the drama affects me directly,
Yeah.
because now I'm part of their lives.
Yeah.
So in correlation to what the parts that I did not enjoy so much, enjoy more so, like liked so much with the scenes, the way they took place, they worked much more so in the second half, because I was like, okay, they sort of somehow are helping me attach my affection and emotion with those characters. Again, I think it boils down to a lot of editing. I feel the film was a lot longer. There were a lot more scenes which have been omitted out, and there could have been scenes which could have been omitted out as well. But for plot purposes, they couldn't. Like the India-Pakistan match sequence, where one character sort of is there, affects a decision that it takes place, which in turn
It's
affects the next
going
decision he takes
event to
place.
event, right? It's going to
Event
get
to event.
to get a character to the point
Correct.
where the article takes
Correct.
place. The article is
Correct.
about how two people worked in Surat and then had to come back. Like, it's like,
Correct.
and the whole idea of the first half is to contextualize how they got there in
Correct.
many ways.
So
yes.
I feel those scenes don't work as a whole, but they work only to provide information about what really happened to these characters. So I don't know what really could be put as a, if I'm looking at, like, from maker's perspective, I'm like, okay, I don't know if they would have put 4 more scenes, how that could have affected my perspective and viewing experience in general. So I think that's a curious case to explore in general. But the way the film ended, it really, moved me, and like, I think I'm an easy crier at the movies.
Yeah, we know that, considering we've seen you cry in Kalhona also. So.
Yeah. The two of you last year, essentially.
The three of us sat in a row and just cried.
All of us were sobbing.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm so glad I don't live in Delhi and don't have to meet you guys for 3 years.
We might just do Mami at some point. So if there is a film that makes
I
us
would
so
love,
emotional,
yeah,
we could just keep
I
crying
would
in a
love,
row.
I would love a film in which like 3 of us are crying and then Amartya has the.
He's just like scoffing at us. He's like,
No, he's
just like,
pretending like he
I don't
doesn't
know these
know.
guys.
He doesn't know them.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the ending really moved me, and I think it was very overwhelming, to say the least, because I was like, I think the effect became much more so important to me than the whole film. What it tried to preach, or just say what it tried to reach out to me. But just the last thing that I'd like to say before we move on to Dhruv, and then later into spoiler territory, is I think Ghaywan has changed more so in the last 5 years than people putting it in a 10-year context. I think till Gili Pucci, his storytelling was very different. It was much more twisted, I would say, in terms of how he viewed his characters. I mean, they're not binary. He's not looking at characters here in a binary way either. But this is
Really?
very much
Sorry,
projected.
I'm just like, okay. Sorry, that's one of my big contestations, but okay.
No, you please do tell me about it,
Yeah.
because whatever I think could be different than what you did. Because I feel the film is projecting much more so than ever, which made me realize it sort of works like how Raj Kapoor's social dramas worked back in the 50s. There is a
Which is
moment
like
in,
what are the sort of, I just.
like Shri 420, Jagte Raho, and films like these, which had a social element that what
Sure.
the character would experience in general. But they didn't really specify the character's identity as an outward idea.
And they were more catered for entertainment, I'm presuming, right?
Correct. They were much more catered to the society also, because cinema was for the common man.
Of course.
Infotainment. Yeah. Essentially that. But here, what I realized was
Far
Ghaywan's
more
change in
entertaining than
voice.
what is currently known as infotainment, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Think
agree.
about it.
But I just think that this is a newer voice of Ghaywan. I'm more curious to put this film in context when I watch his next film, or essentially. So those are my initial thoughts which you
Yeah,
went on for long.
I apologize for.
Cannons being loaded, everybody shields up, riot shield raise karo. Acha, theek hai,
So
continue.
for context to the listeners, we are already aware of Dhruv's
Yeah,
Yes,
verdict
yes.
on the film.
We have had
Uh,
both personal and very public conversations about
Yeah,
And-
Dhruv has also
opinions.
Yes.
like
yeah.
bombarded us with messages. Not
Yeah,
bombarded,
because
that's the wrong word.
okay. So I've
But
there's very few filmmakers. So I don't, unlike Amartya, who's very diligent with his writing. I am not. So the filmmakers who I've written up, like some of the filmmakers and films I've written and talked about, I will always have like fairly, either strong opinions on or very confident opinions on about their film. And you, as someone who considers himself absolutely not confident in most of the things he says, the fact that I came out of this confidently saying that I do not need to watch this again because I know that this film is fundamentally not a good film, and I'm going to put it out there in
Fair.
the way I see films. I don't think this is a good film. That doesn't take away anything from the fact that it can move people. If it moves someone, it's great. It's great that Chris is so moved by it. It's great that Sanjeet came out of it and came away with the feeling that the film had overwhelmed him. Those are things I can never take away from anyone. That's a subjective thing, very subjective thing. And a lot of people have
Yeah.
been moved by Homebound, and that's great. As someone who wasn't moved by it at all, really, I would say, there's one sequence I think that had the potential of
One second,
moving.
this is the
This is
the
the
same
final,
sequence?
close to the final, with one supporting character, not with any of the main characters, involving slippers. A moment which I think is cruelly and brutally cut short, and one of the few moments which I think the film really needs to linger on because of the great performance taking place in that moment. My problems are like manyfold. Like I don't know where to start in many ways, to be very honest. Like I just
Do you want to? I have a question before you start. I want to know what was the thing that you mentioned was omitted out of the article because I am unaware about it.
okay. So this is a
And
spoiler.
which you think could have been,
So in the article is about the friendship of these two people. One of them who belongs to, who has a Muslim background, and one of them who belongs to the quote unquote Dalit sort of, your the untouchable, quote unquote untouchables scheduled caste thing, which sort of becomes the friendship is the sort of bond that is the center of the film and the article in many ways, and how the friendship and how the friendship sort of moves through these hardships that life throws at them, right? The finale of the film and the main crux of the article and the film is that because of the very lax and very incompetent sort of government policies and the way they treated COVID at a particular time, it hit the migrant laborers the hardest, and these two were part of that. And because of that, one of them suffered by losing his life. And the whole idea is that, and the way in which the article details how that happened is very different from how it's depicted in the film. The big omission is that the person who dies is in the film Chandan, not the Ishan Khattar, Vishal Jethwa, is that his
Jethwa,
name?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
his character passes away. And in reality, he was not cremated, but buried. And that's a fairly big thing, I think, in the context of the bond also of these people, the whole idea that he of interreligious bonds, essentially, of the whole idea that he doesn't need to be cremated, and that's something which happens in the film. He is cremated at the end after his body is brought back to yeah, sorry, Chris.
I have a question.
No, but I have a this thing. But the article said that he was buried because some Dalits choose to do that, not
Yes.
because he
I
has
understand
to
that.
be cremated.
I absolutely
It's that
understand
in some Dalit communities, that is the ritual, not cremation.
I have a question
Yes,
regarding
yeah.
the cremation shown in the movie. The fact is, cremation, how are they showing it? Because this is during the height of the COVID era. Cremation.
This is not the height of the COVID era. This is before
This is
the
the beginning.
big sort of
ठीक है,
second
so
wave
in the,
happened, right? I
yeah,
think.
yeah, ठीक है. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
during the beginning of the second wave, whatever,
Yeah.
how are they showing the cremation? Are they showing that he's being sent to the
At the
his body?
house, at his house, which didn't happen in real life,
Okay.
which is fine. You know, that's the film's choice.
Yeah.
But to me, like again, see, Chris, you're saying that that's what the article says. But if you show it in the film, what are the potential implications of showing it in the film? Is the other thing, I suppose, that comes into play. Anyways, that's I thought was was one of the omissions, which I was like, it could be because of the pressure they might have faced because of the potential ways in which it might have been interpreted. Anyways, that's one of the big emotions, and just the whole way in which that day transpires is kind of fundamentally changed. Like, it's not like the police is involved, the politicians are involved, people are involved. They are like, in this, the people are almost absent, and the death takes place without anyone around these people, which I was like, again, very surprising and the one moment of respite I thought was extremely saccharine in a way, which I thought was, I never thought the film earned the whole idea. I know what it's playing at is the angle of the mother and how the image of the mother appears because of the feet, which is a good through line the film has. I think the film has two or three pretty good through lines. One is biryani, one is feet, and it has a good setup of these things in the beginning, how these characters are linked with each other, and then it has very good payoffs and in the second half. But apart from that, I think whatever Chris said, I think there is no balance for me here, actually. And whatever balance is it's going for, it goes for in a way where neither the personal nor the political feel very prominent, which is why I have one of the big issues I have with the film is the cinematography, which is very
Okay.
shallow focused. Like, it's not like the images all are almost taking place in a way where it's foregrounding these characters and what they are thinking, and it's like the background is almost always actually quite blurry. The whole idea is that subjectivity, and you're getting closer to these people who are alienated from society, and the same with the aspect ratio is is the narrower sort
The
of thing,
letterbox.
where the whole thing is that what you want to do is to get into these characters spaces and places and headspace, essentially, which I think is just, for me, just firstly never happened, because every scene just kept on telling me what I was supposed to either feel or what these characters are. I'm like, when is where are the small moments? Where are the very, very small moments which then lead to the big moments? Every moment is a big moment in this. And I felt that absolutely destroyed any sort of what you call lived in quality that these films have, and Ghaywan's films have had. It's not that it's a new as you said, it's a new thing, that this hasn't happened in a Ghaywan film before. I felt, apart from the one or two moments with the two friends, everything else felt incredibly false. The relationship between Janvi Kapoor and Vishal Jaitwa, I thought, was extremely, firstly, I don't know, like shortened in some ways. Again, I reference back to Vicky Kaushal and Shweta Tripathi's relationship in Masan, which I still remember, and I've not seen the film since 2015. And wonderfully terrific use of songs in Masan to communicate that relationship. There is no song in this. There is nothing in terms of, what language is this film going for? Is it going, you said the Raj Kapoor thing, but there is no committed melodrama in this. It shies away from melodrama plenty. It never commits to it. Like, it's always at the edge of walking back. Whenever the most melodramatic situation in the first half that happens is when they're looking at their results, each of their results on the thing, which is a good moment in its when Ghaywan decides to extend it. It's the tension that comes with one seeing the result and seeing their name, and the other one not seeing the name. Before that, and correct me if I'm wrong and if my memory is wrong, we see each of their families at Shoaib's house. I'm like, but then once that scene ends, this film splits into their own spaces. I'm like, go back to the house together, both of you, and then react to your families who are at that same house. How do they react to this situation in front of the other person who's adversely affected by the situation?
But that's a potential could be situation, right? It's not like that is like you're projecting what you think can be possible,
No,
right?
I'm saying that is my point is the film is shying away from that sort of melodrama also, which
I
comes with the
think
whole idea where if that scene is not then split into a montage, essentially, of them being in their own spaces and communicating it to their own parents in their own
I would
time.
like to
yeah,
interrupt. I would
because
like
the
to interrupt
reactions are
just one
different,
second.
right?
I'd like to interrupt just one second.
Yeah.
Ki, you are saying that it is
Mm.
shying away from melodrama.
Yeah.
The point is, if a movie is shying away from melodrama, the problem should arise if the movie actually hints at already having melodrama in the first place and then shying away from it. Does this
There are
movie have a melodrama within itself in the beginning
it is a
sections of some of them?
melodramatic premise. It is a fundamentally
Premise
melodramatic
I can
premise.
understand, but the filmmaking treatment itself demands something different, right? Does the film have melodramatic treatment which isn't there throughout, which is why it is becoming inconsistent?
I
Or
think so. Because I don't think whatever it's going for instead of that melodrama is successful either. Like to me, there is no realism to this, to me also. The drama feels so constructed that it can't function as realism. And if it's not functioning as realism, then we resort to melodrama. But the melodrama is well mellowed down in a way which, feels again. I'm like, again, the issue is when I was watching it, I was thinking of like so many different approaches to this material. I was thinking of Anubhav Sinha's Bheed even, and I was thinking how he at least sort of was like
you
going for it. Sir, आप you बोल सकते हो, but my point
Hey,
is that
you when did you watch Beat? You said you didn't watch Beat.
I
I'm
watched
talking to
Veer.
Amartya.
I
Oh.
watched Veer.
I
The
thought you
black and
said you
white
didn't.
Anubhav
I
Sinha
thought you
Yeah.
movie.
said you didn't want to watch because of the
No,
COVID
I
premise.
did. No, I did. I did much
Okay.
later, but I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my you reaction is very you because it is very you. But ठीक है.
Anyways, so
continue.
my point is that, I mean, again, I don't love the film, but my point is that that's committed in its loud, very loud anger against a lot of systems and prejudices, etc., etc. That is there, but then this isn't. It's the
See, I think I don't know if it serves as a counter to what you're trying to say or not, but I thought I'm talking purely from writing perspective. I thought the idea of their lives being individualistic and the struggles being individualistic was separate from the get-go. They did go and apply for the same thing. They the film essentially begins with them going together for the
giving the
particular exam of
right?
giving the
Yes.
exam for getting a constable's job.
Yeah.
But I thought post that it's
Yeah.
their lives separately because from the get-go, from the next scene onwards, this guy gets a job and in the morning he's getting that new shirt and
Sure.
getting off, going off to work.
Sure.
So I felt their lives had their own sort of crests and troughs of their own. Like
Sure.
one person was going up, the other person was going down. Then the
Sure.
other person was going down, the other person was going up. So I
Sure.
thought it was like more like meter in terms of
Sure,
like you
I
see
get.
two knobs.
No, I get.
Which
I get
that's
what
how
you
it was
mean.
operating in screenplay format.
Until
That's
they
how
meet.
what I
Until
observed.
they meet together by the second half. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
When
I
they
agree.
when
I agree. I
yeah.
think the big issue then also is there in that
No.
each of their individual events for me feel like highlight reels of their lives. Like to me, the specificity is missing. To
See,
me, it's
I
like
Can I ask something?
yeah.
Sorry,
Huh.
Sanjeet, interrupting. Can I ask something? Why you are saying that it feels like highlight reels? Is it because the editing you feel is like too fast cut or like
No, it
thoda-
just cuts from scene to scene essentially. Like the scene
Okay.
ends, tuck, next moment this person is entering someone's house
You
and another
should
scene
actually
begins.
one thing you will note, 100 as everyone will note, in fact, the interval in this is one of the most abrupt interval. It just happens like this. I'm just like, there is nothing in the language is only totally like, when the whole idea of Bollywood and melodrama and whatever you want to say is when you're saying crests and troughs, you're not committing to the emotionality of the crest and troughs, even in terms of your interval is your supposedly whatever your crest or your trough,
Mm.
right?
Whatever it seems to me that it is very much trying to not be quote unquote Bollywoodized or not be quote unquote. That's the intent.
I think that's what I'm trying to put together in my head as well. And I think that's what I was trying to say before as well. I think it's a mix of different sensibilities. We've seen other filmmakers also do different sensibility. I think this is a very specific sensibility, which has ideas of, let's say, 50s Hindi cinema melodrama, of making social cinema, but also has the idea of European not
realism.
sort of like how
Neorealism
camera
kind of.
operates in a way, like it's sort of breathing around characters and all that.
Which
Like which I think there's only one dolly shot in the whole film. There's no dolly shot at all.
It's your cinema verite sort of whatever you want to call it.
Cinema verite in a way.
But the crucial difference, Sanjeet, in cinema verite is not lets the environments also feel real. Like this has that very blurry look at everything, and I'm like, I didn't know what Surat was and whatever the other place was. Like it was such a geographical sort of, everything was like one thing, and I was like, why is that it when your approach is cinema verite? Like if you're going for that verite, where is the the feel of the place?
Where is the texture? Where is the verite?
Where is that?
Where is the verite?
But I think those places become inconsequential to them, right? I'm just coming up right now as
Sir,
we speak.
it's about social
So let me
injustice.
think about it. Let me think as I speak. I'll come up with stuff as I'm going to go. I think it becomes inconsequential where they actually, apart from their homes, whichever city they go, it becomes essentially just another workplace for them. It essentially becomes like, okay, this is also another place for them to work and send money home. So the life of an immigrant or people who basically migrate to different cities for work, for blue collar jobs essentially.
Yes.
It becomes inconsequential even if they're living in Delhi or Bombay or Hyderabad.
Of course
because
it does.
The work that they do is the same. It
I
doesn't affect their
totally-
status in the society either, right?
I totally agree with you. But a film, if it's going to do that, then it can't be as broadly reaching for like a lot of. If you're going to commit to subjectivity of two people, also of two people, subjectivity is very. Because the film is consistently trying to give these shades to the other characters in the background, right? Because his sister, for example, has like this one moment with Chandan. So everyone has a moment essentially. I don't think they have characters as such. Everyone has like their moments with these people, because I think fundamentally Ghaywan wants to tackle a lot of things here, and he wants to tackle the intricacies between.
He is trying, that is
he
for
is
sure.
trying, but the issue is then that for me fundamentally conflicts with what you're talking about subjectivity, because we are not subjectively totally attuned to these people, or at least I wasn't.
Fair.
So to me, it is simply
that is a fair argument that you've put
for
forward.
me,
I think that's like objectively that is the right statement to make, because then it doesn't comply to the person's perspective at all at the end of the day.
My reference point is Santosh, the Sandhya Suri film, which
doesn't have a
absolutely
release.
committed. Yeah, but is absolutely committed to subjectivity.
Which I have seen. Which
Amartya has
genuinely like that movie.
Chris, even you've seen or no?
No.
I've not seen it. No, but my point was very much that for me that's the difference, right? I feel like the film works for me almost at an entirely symbolic level. For me, that's why I said no. It's almost that's when I was talking to you also, Dhruv. I said that I don't really know how it functions as a dramatic piece, because that is not what I was looking at. Maybe it's a difference of expectations and difference of what you are looking out of, wanting to get out of the film as well, right? Because I am at a point with Bollywood or with Hindi cinema, whatever the landscape is, that a film depicting such a thing itself to me becomes a point for it. Like for example, the Shoaib's dinner
This
scene.
is your thing with the even like Bhool Bhulaiya 3.
Exactly.
Not to
Like
add that into it.
no, I was going to go to Bhool Chup Maaf. Okay. I have other comparisons.
Sir, nobody remembers that movie. Aap Bhool Bhulaiya 3 mein raho. हाँ.
The point being that for example, the dinner scene, I can totally understand that it feels incredibly constructed and incredibly like signposty and like I can understand
Yeah.
all of that. But it doesn't change the fact that to me, and I'm saying this as an entirely subjective perspective, as me watching the film, doesn't change the fact that watching something like that is incredibly cathartic because we don't get depictions like that in Bollywood and or in our cinema, and it takes someone like Ghewan in such a context to say, and I know it's not a good quote unquote defense for the film, which I don't think I'm trying to run either. My idea is essentially why it worked for me, and for me,
Yeah, of
I
course.
felt
Yeah.
the subject.
That's
Again,
another fair enough point. I
Ah,
guess.
but
and
again,
I come to I want to talk about the Ardjividam comparison because I think that for me
Huh.
is a great comparison. So in the latter half of in the second half of Ardjividam,
Ardjividam.
there is a sequence where
For
Prithviraj's
give
character.
context about Ardjividam a
Okay.
little bit.
So yes, it's a film called The Goat Life by National Award, if I'm not mistaken, winning director Blessy,
Yes.
starring Prithviraj Sukumaran. It's based on a very, very famous novel of the same name by Benjamin, which is based on the real life experiences of an individual who traveled to the Gulf states for a job and was essentially human trafficked into doing sheep herding in the middle of the desert with absolutely no contact with anybody for multiple years. And he becomes almost goat-like, therefore the goat life in his sort of only contact with them, and eventually manages to escape by walking through the desert for many days and reaching civilization, where he's eventually reunited with people and then goes back to his family. So in the second half of the film, when they're planning the escape, so the film is very much a misery experience. It's a long film, and it's very much about this. So the beauty of the book, and I'm a huge fan of the book, is because it's very much about the sort of subjective experience and this character's relationship with God and how he endures all this suffering through his faith in a way, and how he documents the resilience of the human experience in a sense. Whereas the film goes for a very voyeuristic, and that's why the big shot in the film is of Prithviraj taking all of his clothes off.
This is like the
I mean,
Revenant
even
thing, essentially.
kind of, yes.
Yeah.
Kind of, yes.
essentially.
Yeah. Kind of,
Suffering for the art, essentially.
Yes,
Essentially.
being extremely withered
The
and,
marketing
Yeah.
to the most big shots to quote unquote even the set pieces is essentially look at how my muscles are falling away, look at how I'm
Yeah.
withering away. So it's
and
kind
there's
of
this
like that.
contrast where Prithviraj is like much heavier and than his usual self in the pre, and then this extremely like malnutritioned in the post.
Yeah.
So when this is
But the
he
comparison.
Yeah, so he had come with another character, with a much younger guy, and when they're escaping, the two of them are sort of trying to escape together. And a good 30 minutes to 40 minutes of the latter half is just them walking in this desert. So it's large shots of an empty desert and the sun beating down on them. And their feet swell up. They're they're desperate for water. And this one character, Hamid, if that's the character's name, if I'm remembering correctly, the younger guy, he gets a heat stroke. And he essentially has a very similar thing. So he starts having like these delusions, hallucinations, and he attacks Prithviraj, and eventually he dies a very
This is
graphic
like
death.
you might need to take. I don't know if this is in the book, but you might need to press, or maybe what is that guy's face? Matt Damon and Gus Van Sant and Casey Affleck might need to press charges against Blessy because this seems like the plot of Jerry. Their very experimental 2002 film about two people walking in a desert where one person where two people seem to have lost control.
I literally
have
had a
no idea about
mini
this movie.
stroke. I literally had a mini stroke
No,
on
but
remembering Jerry.
what Chris defined was what happens in Jerry. That is the whole movie.
No, but
Anyways.
this is based off of a real person.
This is
The
based
real
off a real
person's
person's life.
experience.
No, but Chris said the book is very different. It's written very
The book
differently.
is very different,
Yeah.
yes. But the point is that in Homebound, in the second half of Homebound, there is a very similar sort of sequence where Khatar and Jetwa's characters are abandoned in the middle of the road in like sweltering heat and have to walk back to their home. Obviously, if you read the article, the series of events are slightly different than what happens, as Dhruv points out. But for me, but the point is that it happens for me in a very matter-of-fact manner. It's sort of like three sort of moments. It starts off, they have a bit of in the middle where first, Ishan Khatter calls up the doctor and he realizes what's going on. And there's a moment where the character dies. And it's very crisply, very matter-of-factly, and very non-flashily, showily done in those 3 moments. And I understand
Sorry, go
if
ahead.
the
Finish it.
drama of that doesn't work, the sort of, Qatar's, like you said, the recollection of the mother and him trying to get this guy to wake up doesn't work. But it doesn't, for me, it was that I have seen what it looks like when this is done to milk the misery out of it. And
Sure.
it's like the most miserable I have been in a theater for 40 minutes in my life. And when I saw, that's what for me, it makes a lot of sense that it's taken from an article because it's got almost a reportage sort of a feeling to how the plot is constructed.
Like it's dry. It's very
It
dry.
is, yeah, it's pretty dry in how it tells it, but it's got that emotionality in the character moments, which is what I've in a sense almost maybe that was the expectation I went going in, because I've not seen much of Gaywan's work, and I was pretty much set off for that, I think, from the
Sir,
very
he's
beginning
made
of how
barely any. You've seen most of his work. You've not seen
Except
Masan.
Masan.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
but
need
the
to
point
see Masan, which is exceptionally well.
Also, this is a very separate note. You can use songs. I mean, there is nothing against
So
using
I
songs.
think Amit Trivedi is credited for music,
Is
which
that-
I'm sure he didn't do background score, because
Oh,
background
okay.
score is credited to Nitin Chandavarkar
Okay.
and
That was
Benedict
the most
songs are cut out.
generic background score I've ever heard.
So it
So-
feels like the
No song is in it.
songs are cut out of the
Yeah,
film,
there's no
essentially,
song.
at the end.
The Mani Ratnam shit again. Songs nikalo.
Arey sir, why are you bringing that up right now?
No, but the music and what I will counter Chris with is like you are thinking about Adu, the goat life. I will not butcher that pronunciation.
Adu Jeevitam.
आपने भी कर दिया कचरा, I think.
No, I don't think so. It's not that hard also.
Hard.
Yeah.
So yes,
It's not that hard
the
also.
goat life is Chris's reference point. My reference point is how Shujit Sarkar handles his death scenes. So I'm thinking about that because the most I've been moved by is how Shujit Sarkar handles particular scenes in Piku and in October,
Sardar Udham.
both.
Sardar Udham.
And
Sardar Udham
Sardar
also.
Udham is one thing which I think Chris doesn't like, the moment I love, in that the extended walk, the 20 minutes walk, which I
even
think
I
is,
did.
which
I
think
liked it
is-
a lot.
I
I
think
love
is the
that
best
scene.
moment of the
I love that
of the
scene.
film.
I really didn't like that.
So to me, it's not about misery though. Like in that particular instance, it's not about misery. It's about realization and him realizing that he is not this one person.
I
and
thought
then
it was.
has
I
become.
thought it was essentially shock. It was like
Yeah,
it was
and
like
I
an
think-
acknowledgement of the shock.
Yeah, and I think a sort of turning away from the individual, because like the face of
that
the lover
became-
is never seen.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's the
Yeah.
whole. To me, like those
It became
things.
first-hand experience then.
Yeah, and what
essentially.
I'm just saying, I don't need it. I don't like misery porn as much as Chris doesn't like it too. Like I don't like that particular form of it. My issue is this sort of.
You like Ladania form of it.
Oh my God! I don't. Please don't remind me of that.
Sorry. Continue.
Listen, I will literally. I
Trauma,
have the
trauma.
most reason to become the arsonist / murderer when it comes to dharma this year. Anyways, because I think a lot of the criticisms, it's easy, I think, for us to, or for me at least, because I didn't like it. You guys liked it. For me to say that this is the dharmification
No,
of
but
Neeraj
honestly,
Ghaywan.
we don't know, right?
That's
we
why I'm saying
genuinely
I
have no idea.
I don't. Yeah, I think it's just a bit of a slap together film, I would say, in the reportage sense also, like in the sense that it's too much event. What the event is
this
about,
is a
what the
common
event is about,
criticism,
what the
right?
event is
Sanjeet,
about.
even you also agree. This is a common
That's what I
criticism.
said as well. Like the second quarter of the film doesn't work for me because it just cuts from point to point
Yeah,
without.
it's
And those points are also important because they are important to the plot from reaching.
it's A
point
to B to B to C and all that.
Which
And
I
was like,
agree.
okay,
Which
I'm
I
like,
agree is okay.
so I
That is
would,
an issue.
what I was thinking was, it would be nice actually if the whole context section of the film was done like that, as you're saying. Because Sardar Udham, from whatever I remember, has this initial 30 minutes in which the film seemingly ends, where I was like, what? Like already
Yeah.
you reach the conclusion in
You
the first
kill
30
the
minutes.
person.
And
Yeah,
baki mein
yeah.
kya dikhaoge? It's like one of those
Yeah.
things.
Which was a
and-
very good episode which we did. Huh?
Yeah,
We
yeah, yeah.
discussed about it a lot.
And no, but here I was like, I would have loved.
Sanjeet is already reminiscing about good times.
But
No, that's
no,
a great. That was a great episode actually. But
in
continue.
in this, I think I would have much preferred if we had a much more extended time with them on the journey back. And I don't mean it in the let's see them suffer, but in the let's see them just be on the journey. And I would be happy to listen to them talk about their lives. I would be happy to listen to them talk about or joke around. But
Wait, hold on,
that's very
hold on. So
little.
you wanted a hangout movie?
Second
Not a
half,
hangout.
yeah. In
I
the second
think he
half,
wanted moments where characters were breathing with us,
yeah.
essentially.
Right.
That's what Dhruv.
Not as part of plot points.
Because there's a
basically.
lot of caricatures in for me, everyone else is a caricature only in this. Like, what's that guy in his office who's like the Muslim hater?
Tiwari
I'm like, come on,
stereotype.
Ghaywan, you can't go. Like, you are making this film. Like, I was just like, you who's made Juice. Juice doesn't have caricatures. Juice has like people who are like, going. It feels casual. He's tackling casual forms of. In that scene I think is a microcosm of Juice minus the details, like a sort of fast forwarded version of it in many ways, for a different.
Dhruv, don't you think expectations are coming into the picture at this point?
सर
Because
क्यों
it's
नहीं
like
आएंगी सर? नीरज घैवान के लिए आएंगी, 100% आएंगी, मैं मना ही नहीं
but
कर
you are also making this quote unquote commercial, right? You yourself are agreeing to this at this point कि
बट
commercial तो
कमर्शियल
बना
पिक्चर
रहे हैं.
नहीं है ना सर, नहीं है, फिर भी नहीं है. इट्स लाइक दैट हाफ वे कॉम्प्रोमाइज वेयर इट्स लाइक कमर्शियल के लिए भी नहीं काम करेगी. एंड आई टू थिंक आर्ट, the thing is, it's being positioned as the art house darling, the whole sort of this is the alternative cinema that it's not, is my also argument against it. Like, this is not good alternative cinema for me.
I'm unaware of the positioning, honestly. I know.
I mean,
So am I.
so
So I
positioning
feel if
in
it's
general,
produced by Dharma, I don't consider that film as an art house film at all. It is
मेन स्ट्रीम फिल्म भी नहीं
sure.
अच्छी ना सर, मैं तो वो बोल रहा हूँ.
हाँ, but again,
हाँ.
that's your perspective. My
हाँ,
point
of
is,
course.
it is for what it is trying to be and what it is. I think it works. It reaches out to me as a viewer. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think I would say that my thing would be that if you want a mainstreamized version of this, then I think Anubhav Sinha has a much better hold of it than Neeraj Ghaywan does in the
100%.
treatment. Because I think
100%.
Neeraj Ghaywan's treatment is compromised in a way where I didn't feel the emotion. So it's very simple on that particular point then.
I mean, isn't Dharma also, as a production house, going through this phase of? I mean,
they're hiring Anubhav
even in
Sinha.
Rocky or Rani.
Oh God,
there was
please
some
don't remind me of
sequences
that
which
stuff.
both of us identified saying this is definitely written by Shashank Khaitan. Apparently, that was the same case for this
I
Tulsi
heard
Kumari
that Tulsi
Pani.
Kumari has a bunch of those lecture bazi aa jati hai beech mein. I'm like,
No,
bas
it's
dal
like,
diya.
the movie is like and for the audience, because they obviously
आ
already
गई,
know this.
Chris आ गई. आनी थी, 100% आनी थी ना इस
But you
discussion
brought
में.
it up, man.
Whatever, I knew कि
it up.
आएगी. Yeah.
But for the audience who probably have already guessed this, Sunny Sanskari ki Tulsi Kumari came out 2 days back, and of course, yesterday.
And yes,
of course, I have watched it.
Dr. Chris, PhD in trash Hindi cinema, connoisseur of.
And before you ask, that's not a real PhD, but ठीक है.
It is my aspiration, sir. I'm manifesting it. I'm manifesting it, sir. But I have, of course,
हो जाएगा. दो साल bro, हो जाएगा. कोई टेंशन नहीं है.
I watched it first day, of
Yes.
course, and it 100% is the exact same thing where the narrative screeches to a halt. You have a character that is barely developed, who is the wife of a character who is even less developed, who is like brought into, and then Varun Dhawan
Lectures.
Varun Dhawan has zero relation to this person. Okay, he knows this person for about 30 seconds, and he gives an entire lecture about how देखो बड़ी घर की बेटियों को भी लड़ना पड़ रहा है, and औरतों की कोई.
I have a very important question, Chris. Which lecture from Bollywood is more effective now? ये वरुण धवन का lecture या अजय देवगन giving a lecture on the importance of dance in Sardar 2?
Jesus Christ.
I will honestly take the Ajay
Devgan's
lecture.
Because this sort of lecturing, actually, I mean, I don't love Article 15, though I still think that moment, that very popular moment, which now probably has become a meme, I think is effectively melodramatic.
Yeah.
Thappad has one of the better examples of this. I think with the final sequence that Tapsi has with her mother, with everyone actually in the puja. When a puja finishes and she has to essentially, she's talking about her desires, and it's so effectively done in that sort of context. In here, the death scene happened. I was
Back when Taapsee Pannu could regulate her acting. Wow. Nice.
like, okay, Amartya, don't need to throw her, wherever.
I didn't
Uh,
say
but-
anything. I said regulate
let's
her acting.
finish
Yeah,
up
yeah.
this conversation
Yeah,
with
yeah.
final thoughts because we are already an hour into this episode.
Yeah, I told you you'll
And-
extend this by half an hour if you include me in this. So,
No,
yeah.
that's fair because we wanted to have a conversation. Otherwise,
Yeah, of course.
there would be no pushback about understanding each other's perspective. And I more or less agree to what you think about the film as well. I don't disagree with that perspective because I feel where you're coming from. You are looking at it as the
As a
positioning of the
film.
film, which is not working for you at all.
I mean, it's the
And-
whole thing, na, emotion. Because I wasn't emotionally engaged, all these things come to the forefront. If I was
Correct,
emotionally
correct.
engaged, all of this might
ये
have
सब
gone.
आएगा ही नहीं ना
हाँ.
पीछे से हाँ.
लाइफ इन अ
because
मेट्रो जैसी पिक्चर मुझे अच्छी लगती है सर. क्यों अच्छी लगती है?
even-
क्योंकि इमोशन
हाँ,
हो गया.
Don't digress, please, right now.
No,
Let's
even
just
when
do
Dhruv and
final
I
thoughts.
were talking about
Yeah.
Homebound
Huh.
personally, that was like I was entirely like understanding of all. Like first, I did have a moment of shock, but as Dhruv explained his qualms, I could absolutely understand why
Yeah.
it wouldn't work for him. And why
Yes.
the exact sometimes even the exact reason it doesn't work for him,
Yeah.
maybe why it worked for me.
Yeah.
And that is
Correct.
entirely understandable because
Yeah.
there are very valid criticisms and critiques of the film at a filmmaking level that one can make
Yes.
and that I can
Yes.
wholeheartedly agree to. But there is
Yes.
also the distinction that the film working is an entirely subjective process.
Of course.
And that
Absolutely.
will
Yeah.
differ, and it is a question of positionality, it's a question of our personal sensibilities,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. So
मूड भी
I
खराब हो
can
सकता है
enta-
मेरा. वो तो
उस-
वैसे ही
उस-
रहता है
हाँ.
खराब.
Sir,
but yeah.
that तो we have taken into account कि था उस time पे.
No,
मैं तो कह रहा हूँ
you are in
rewatch
your
करो.
post Nadania era, so आपका मूड खराब
Hate
ही
your
रहता
mood.
है.
Hate your mood.
Listen, I watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre after that. The amount of joy I've had in seeing
Sir, I'm
films.
telling you आप rewatch करो.
You were
I think
picturing
October is going to be
we know who
catharsis
you
for
were.
you. You'll watch a lot of good horror movies and you'll come out happy. And then
You'll-
you'll go into November happy.
I'm
That's
telling
what
you,
sure.
I'm telling
No,
you,
not November, actually.
you should call Ahendula and just make a podcast about horror movies girlies like. I'm
Okay,
telling
okay.
you.
Don't digress into some other episode. The point being, I think
Yeah.
I'm positioned somewhere in between both Chris
Yeah.
and Dhruv about what I think about the movie.
Yeah.
Because some of the parts that don't work for Dhruv also don't work for me. But
Yeah.
the overall effect of the film does work for me.
Yeah.
Especially the second half of the
I
film.
also have to say, I hated the final shot.
Okay.
I thought the
Fair enough.
symbolism was appallingly poor in that. With a certain bird, where I was like, this, you can't be doing that in your realistic-ish film. I was like, no. And also, one last issue I will raise. Just
Oh.
because this was two people audibly in my hall at one shot of migrant workers leaving the thing said, "What a shot." And I felt sick to my stomach because I was like, you have not explored these people's lives enough to then throw on this
The God's
great,
eye view shot.
yeah, God's eye view
of-
shot of them leaving on a bridge or somewhere. I was like,
Yeah.
great shot, man. But like, it would be nice if I got to know some of this more.
Sir, normies के ऊपर क्यों गुस्सा हो रहे हो?
No, sir, it's a sort of indication that when someone says that what a shot in a moment like that about
Which
then
is
the
correct.
shot
Yeah.
shot can't overtake the intent in that sort of moment.
Yeah.
It is absolutely
it can overtake it in other moments in which the idea is showboating. Here you can't showboat.
Where
How
style
can you
is
showboat
actually
in that?
where style is actually the point. यहाँ पे I'm
You-
pretty sure style
You
was
can't
never
you
the
can't
point.
showboat in a sequence about migrant workers leaving. I'm like, ये showboating
Yeah.
का sequence कैसे बना सकते हो आप? Which is why like I just there's so many things
Fair
that
enough,
just
Dhruv.
sorry.
Are those the last thoughts about
I
the film
apologize.
for you?
Yes, yes.
No, don't
absolutely.
apologize. I'm just asking.
माफी
Are these
Yeah.
the last thoughts about the film that you have, or do you want to speak more?
No,
As
I
a
don't.
closing remark.
No, nothing.
Closing
I mean,
remark?
I'm glad it
One-liner?
worked. I'm glad it worked for you guys. And I'm glad it's worked for whoever it has.
I'm
Uh,
genuinely asking, do you have a closing remark about the film?
No, I don't.
And
I mean,
Neeraj Ghaywan.
I mean, there's a lot of I'll always see one. It's the whole thing. One film I don't like, obviously, that doesn't mean I don't like the filmmaker, right? Gilli Pucci, I think, is the best Hindi film made in the past decade, or even this whole 2000s, I would say. One of the best, at least, for me.
2012. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
For me, I like
Okay.
it that much. Okay, and one other film I really thought about, and which has a sort of aesthetic showcasing point and has a similar story, but does something quite interesting with it, I think, is Nickel Boys by Ramel Ross, which is
Oh,
similarly about
okay.
two guys, and focuses on their relationship in a way which I thought felt much more genuine and honest. There's a particular moment in Nickel Boys where someone hugs someone, and I still remember that
This is which
occasionally as
sequence?
it's a POV. I mean, the whole film is a sort of POV thing,
No,
but
no.
like
Which sequence
w-
is this one?
the aunt, the other person, not the, I forget the name, but like in the
Okay.
middle only it happens. It's like it's basically when the
Okay.
She
film's
comes to visit him in the
yes,
college.
yes, when the film's
Yeah.
perspective starts to shift, essentially.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
I'm saying that if you want to do the slightly more formally ostentatious way of exploring this also, then something like Nickel Boys I think worked for me on a sort of, again, didn't commit to the
Okay.
it is about miseries also dealt by people, but like I thought it really honed in on personal.
Very tasteful movie.
Yeah,
Honestly, that's the word
yeah,
I can use. Very tasteful
yeah.
movie. Anyway,
Closing remarks, sir. One line only. That's
हो
your
गया
limitation.
हो गया sir.
हो गया, one line. Okay. Chris, your closing remark about the film.
I mean, it's definitely, I mean, regardless of, and this is a disagreement you're having in the group, that it's definitely worth a watch, whatever you come out of it
I will
thinking.
okay बोलो.
No, Dhruv,
मैंने
that's
कभी
not your
नहीं
closing
बोला.
remark. That's
मैंने
Chris's
कभी
closing
नहीं
remark.
बोला कि
Control.
देखने लायक
That is
नहीं है.
Chris's closing
Control.
remark. No interruption.
Control.
Chris,
I,
continue.
okay, I will, for him, I will say his idea was that don't go out of your way to watch it. If it's playing nearby, go for it. That kind of
Yes.
a remark he made towards Varun. But the point was, I think there is still something important that the film does, and I'm talking about it again from my very subjective perspective, and that I'm still very happy that a film like this exists and it's getting the love that it is from its whatever limited audience it may be. So if there's a possibility you are the audience for it, you should certainly watch it.
Okay. My closing remark about the film is I liked that it moved me, but I'm more curious about how it holds up over time, which usually I am about every film that I end up liking, because I'm like, I would want to know how this film works for me down the line. So I'm more curious about how this film will be, let's say, just 4 or 5 years down the line as well for me. Especially the second half of the film, which particularly really worked for me in terms of how he worked with the actors and directed them from moving and trying to escape the city and onto the road, essentially, to get back to their house, which is essentially the philosophy of the title, which it is.
We never got to talk
But
about Janvi Kapoor's wonderful acting in the crime scene, though.
yeah, which didn't work for me at all. But let's not go there. We've already done closing remarks and all that.
Yeah.
Shout out to Shalini Vatsa, who was
She's
really
the
good
mother,
in
right?
mother of Vishal Jaipur's character.
Best perform memorable. I will remember her
Memorable,
moments.
yes, really good
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
I really liked how Ghaywan also did some really good writing in the middle as well with some characters. But overall, of course, there's stuff that we've already discussed. Let's move on to the next film, and let's get Amartya in more so to discuss about the film, which is Sabar Bonda, also titled as Cactus Spears.
Yeah.
हे काळं घरीच बदलायचं नाणं हजारदा सांगितलं नाही चालत आपल्याला
काळं नाहीये ब्रे
आग निघून देणार बिन लग्नाचा माणूस त्याच्या आत्म्याला शांती मिळेल का
तुला तिथं का नाही थांबायचं कळतंय मला कुणी विचारलं तर सांग चांगली मुलगी भेटली की करेन लग्न
खोटे आस नाही देणार मी कोणाला बस ना
Which is the first Marathi film at Sundance and the first Indian film to win at Sundance. I could be wrong about this.
No, that
Yeah.
Against the Tides one. No, Against it. What's it called?
Not Against the Tides कौन सा? वो documentary.
Some documentary one. No, last year. And All That Breathes one.
All That Breeds, yeah.
Oh, Sundance, yes,
Yeah.
documentary. So I was wrong about it.
Yes.
But it did win at Sundance the World Cinema Dramatic category, and
Yes.
it also won at SXSW London Film Festival. A little brief I'll give about the film before we delve into discussing about it. So Sabar Bonda follows the life of Anand, a 30-something city dweller compelled to spend a 10-day mourning period for his father in the rugged countryside of Western India, tenderly bonds with a local farmer struggling to stay unmarried. That essentially describes the film, which is almost 2 hours long, and is about, and it is a queer film. From the get-go, I think if you don't know, it really sets out with, it is sort of subtle about it, but then it is really working its way through some, dialogues and like some interesting moments that happen in the film. But Chris, or Amartya, do you want to go about it first with your first thoughts, because you haven't spoken for a while, or at all, let's say.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I think this is directed by Rohan Kanawade,
Kanawade, yes.
who is a screenwriter, who I think notably has written screenplay for Sairat. I could be wrong, but
Okay.
Nagaraj Manjule's Sairat, a movie which is referenced in this in
Yes.
Cactus Pay.
Also, not to forget, is executive produced by Nikhil Advani, Sahit Tamhankar, Vikramaditya Motwani, and Nagaraj Manjule. So you can see a lot of strong voices and like
Strong
known names
independent
pushing
voices,
the film.
yes.
It's also one of the producers is Siddharth Meer, who's the head of Bridge Post Work. So I think that's a co-production in a way, like he would post-produce the film without taking any costs, and like so that the film has at least like
And distributed
finishes.
by Spirit Media.
Spirit Media by Rana Dagobatti,
By
who's
Rana Dagobatti,
actively gone out and promoted the film.
Yes, yes,
Amartya,
yes.
sorry for interruption. You can go ahead.
No, it's fine. I was just trying to say that Rohan Kanawade's Sabar Bonda, I genuinely like the movie for its the genre it is tackling is romantic drama. Queer
Yes.
romance or otherwise, it's a romantic drama. I like the fact that it is giving preference equally. Because it is a drama, it is kind of like a coming of age drama about a guy who has lost his father and has to deal with it and has to reconcile with his relatives, has to reconcile with the world that he had left. And has to undergo the process of grief.
Yeah.
So it is essentially a coming of age story without going through the cliches of the coming of age narrative, but handling it with much nuance. And the most important thing, which is also seen in the treatment, is it is very, very tender. Like the entire point of the fruit, the Sabar Bonda fruit or the cactus pears fruit, is you have to remove the thorns, right? So that you can eat the tender fruit. So
the sweet
yeah,
insides
so
of the fruit. Yeah.
so to understand or to extract the tenderness out of the thorns of life, that is the whole point of cactus pears. So I love the fact that how he manages to inculcate the queer romance within this coming of age story of an adult, and how he manages to go through it, how he manages to reconcile it, and also the fact that the exploration of sexuality, there are very few filmmakers who manage to explore sexuality with such nuances. The last time I
Correct.
saw
It's
this
very
in
unassuming.
yeah,
Very
the last time
unassuming.
I saw this was in Girls Will Be Girls. Another movie where a young girl's sexuality was shown in one sequence in the bathroom, where she's basically bathing and she's like feeding through her skin, essentially. That's what it felt like. It's a very unassuming sequence, but it hits you just the same. Here also it feels very much like that. But I think the unassuming nature also stems because of how the film is shot, because the film is shot very much like an Iranian film. The filmmaker who I think is one of the biggest inspiration for Kanawade is Chelan, Nuribil Chelan, because
The
some of
Turkish
those
filmmaker.
some of those choices, like some of those static shots, some of those moments of the camera just staying there, like top shot, the camera is just staying there while there is an intimate sequence near the trees, right? All the sequence, they feel very channel like Wild Pear Tree, a movie which I know Dhruv doesn't like, but I remember Wild Pear Tree a lot while I was watching this movie. But genuinely, I felt that it was very, very moving. I also felt that this is one of those movies which it's like the best of both worlds. It gives a quote unquote happy ending for me without compromising on the reality of the situation, which is something queer films don't usually get. At least in India. At least in India. Like quote unquote happy endings without compromising on the reality of the scenario. That's what happens here. And I genuinely like that. So yeah, that's more or less my thoughts. Cris,
you wanna go next? Because I know you really
Yes,
liked the
sure.
film.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it, and I think there's a lot of again, it comes both from, I think, it being an incredibly well-made film, but also again my very subjective experiences, and the way that I responded to the films given my sort of social context. But I was suddenly reminded, I think one of the very interesting things that the film does, and as Amartya was pointing out, that queer stories don't really get happy endings in how they're treated in Indian cinema. But there's this entire idea of, for example, the relationship with parents. Now, that's a thing that gets sort of generalized across a lot of cinema as a point of like, oh, the parents will not accept and so on and so forth. But in that sort of tenderness, it tries to explore an idea of a very subjective sort of acceptance in a certain cultural context, right? And it reminded me, I wrote a paper in my undergrad, and I'm sorry every time I talk about queer film I talk about this movie, but it's very important to me, which is Luca Guadagnino's Call Me by Your Name. But I wrote a paper on that, calling it queer utopian fiction, in particular to the reference of how Elio's parents treat him and his sexuality, and this sort of quiet acceptance that permeates the text throughout. And for me, that is something that I found very touching about Sabar Bonda. Is it's understood from the very, there's this moment which was which was like very startling to me, because it's not revealed earlier, but in a conversation between Anand and Balya, he says that I've told my parents. And then there is a slow exploration of what that means, in the sense that the mother character who is present throughout the film has this sort of like, you can fend for yourself kind of an understanding. And this his father's quiet support throughout the life becomes almost, this character, the reason why this character is so shattered is because of the way that his father had supported him throughout. And there's a very wonderful moment halfway through, and it's a bit of a spoiler if you can sort of spoil the film, is one of the characters says that his father had said that he wanted Anand to get married, and that sort of breaks Anand entirely, because it shatters
fabulous sequence, especially the payoff later on, especially
payoff
the payoff
exactly.
to the scene.
And I'm getting to that, and it's that it's about how, and we talk about in the queer community, for example, that, like, a bit matter of fact, but the idea is that suicidality is one of the big factors of death within the queer community, and particularly due to a lack of parental support. For like some dry statistics, the rate of suicidality drops, the chances of suicidality drops by 16/17, which is about 94%, if there is one supporting person in a trans person's life, for example. So parental support again becomes a very interesting. So there's a film, for example, in the not particularly fond of it. For example, All of Us Strangers, the Paul Mescal, Andrew Scott film, which explores this fundamental desire for parental acceptance, which Andrew Scott's character is never able to get because his parents die when he's quite young. But the point remains that in Sabar Bonda, you take out the cliched miserableisms, right? The cliched miserableism is, okay, the parents don't accept you. The cliched miserableism is that you both don't get a happy ending. And it, within the very specific constraints of that society, twists them and asks, what if, what if you can, and what if, a very possible what if, because there are stories like this of people.
And its treatment is also so realistic that the possibility is very much like in vogue, or it's reachable. It's a reachable.
It becomes a plausibility from a possibility. It feels plausible of a queer existence as a negotiation more than as a rejection or from or of society.
And I think director himself, I think, is queer, if I'm not mistaken. So I think this is kind of sort of based on his own life also.
No, I think I just read some article while I was just like looking for it's not autobiographical. That's what it's.
Yeah, it's
I think
not
that's
Yeah.
That's the article headline. That's what it read, but I didn't read the whole thing, so I don't know.
It's not autobiographical, but I think he's queer. So, like,
Okay.
kuch
Might be
personal
putting
experience.
in his personal reflections into it. So I think for me, and the most I think touching iconography that goes out throughout the film is of embracing. There are these wonderful moments, and I think three of them in particular that come, or three or four of them that come, where first you have got this moment where I love that all of the moments where they're together is stolen. Like for example, the first time you see intimacy between Balaya and Anand's character happens when Balaya's touching his hair and saying, "Oh, your hair has gone
Correct.
white."
Yeah.
And it sort of turns into this very gentle moment. And it's preceded by a scene of them swimming together. And so it becomes to warm Anand up, he sort of embraces him. And then, that embracing is also transported into their sexual intimacy, right? It's not, it's portrayed as this embrace, their intimacy. And then in the end, obviously, it's this wonderful shot of Anand sort of dreaming that his father is there with him. And they also, their reconciliation or their almost moment happens through an embrace. And that moment of like masculine or like, homosocial physical intimacy, non-sexual, non-romantic, becomes a sort of, to me, a through line throughout the film of that sort of an empathy sort of
It's in a way
thing.
his North Star, right? Because that's the embrace he wants, but he can never, he
One
can't
second,
have
pause.
anymore.
There is like some audio
Yes.
leak happening from
My
this thing
end?
now.
Yeah, I think it's from
Yeah,
Arthur's end.
it's your end.
Hold on, 1 second.
हाँ.
The happy ending होगी तो queer misery कहाँ से, like जो उसकी longing है वो कहाँ से आएगी?
No, that's the beauty, right? So
Thank you.
it transposes the longing in a sort of different way, because it's a bit like Gili Pucci, in the
Okay.
sense that there is something that the queerness is almost secondary to. So the longing happens there, and the queerness gets to play out in a sort of more matter of fact or less focused on manner. And
My
in that
thing-
way, it blooms much more.
My thing was always the day queer stories or queer cinema will become more accepted is when queer stories or queer cinema will slowly and steadily start to become normalized. The only way
I think that happened in Hindi cinema, at least with Kapoor and Sons, in a very large way, I think.
in a
that
large
reached
way,
out
but
to-
yeah.
It did reach out to a lot of people, I think. Like, and we've been making queer stories for a while now. Like, it's as far back as Fire that came out in 1996, which created a lot of problems with
No, but my thing is
conservative groups.
Yeah, my thing is normalizing of queer tales also entails कि it will become part of the plot while not becoming the entire plot. That's all I'm saying. It's like this is a romantic drama. This is as much a drama about his sexuality and his discovery and his understanding of his. It's not understanding, he knows, but it's like his searching for somebody and him finding that quote unquote embrace, as it is about him reckoning with a very like important loss of his own life. So it's as much a coming of age story as it is about a queer love story. So all these films will become more normalized when people will actually accept that this is quote unquote a part of life as it is quote unquote a part of cinema, which is unfortunately not the case nowadays, which is a very bad thing in and of itself. I think Sabar Bonda actually proves to us that it can work. That's it.
So I don't particularly have a verdict on if I really like the film as a personal subjective opinion, but there are moments in this that I really appreciate. Like some of the moments that Chris has already mentioned about the hair, the touch and the embrace that happens as the movie progresses. There are like multiple moments that happen, like the conversations that sort of take place between them, which are inconsequential, but also about this character Anand re-experiencing and having new experiences in his, native place in general. So I thought those ideas really put you close to the character because he is experiencing and you're sort of experiencing it through them as well. So that really worked for me, but I still don't know how I feel about the film at the moment. Probably because of the way the film is treated in particular, um, which is not wrong. I think it is going like very committed to the tone that it is going for and the style that it is going for, especially the
Meditative,
way
right?
very
Very
meditative. The camera holds on for like a lot more seconds than it does, which really reminds me that it could have been made by someone from FTI, because most of FTI films really look like this essentially, if you would have chanced upon. I just thought I maybe need to live with this film a little more to have an opinion, but I really appreciate like how there are ideas like, authoritative relatives that impose ideas of, just general norms that really put this character usually in a corner, and he's not able to fight against it all the time. And then his mother is usually the one championing for him, and even his father as well. Like, he did, but like it sort of seeps in through him as well as we see him in present. So those ideas I really appreciated.
And I also like the fact that the actor himself, he's like playing a sort of wariness, because it's like with the loss of his
He's
father,
tired.
he's also
Yes.
lost the will to fight because he doesn't want to
Yes.
fight. But he
Yes.
finds
Yes.
himself always in a position to fight, which is very relatable, even if the circumstances or the premise of the story is different. It is very
Yeah.
relatable for anybody who goes through something like this.
Yeah.
It's
No, I
very
think there's
relatable.
even something interesting about, like, for example, if you're someone who's grown away from like your hometown, for example,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
entirely like separated from your particular context, and say you're say you're in an urban atmosphere, say your family is slightly less progressive as you are, it could be of any reason, and you go there, you have uncomfortable conversations, you don't like their opinions, that feeling of I don't want to go there, like, his idea of, I'll be there for the first 2 days and I'll come back for the 10th. That's a very understandable and very relatable sort of a setup in its very sense,
Fair enough,
regardless
yeah.
of what the particular circumstances of it may be. But that negotiation added the context becomes even more poignant to me in a certain sense, because again, I find it incredibly relatable to the particular experiences that
I thought something that interesting happened was when they have the conversation for the first time under the tree, right? When they're talking about each other's eye, like Anand's eye color. Balia asks him if his eyes were always brown. Something that happened very subtly was the camera was always zooming in.
Yes.
And I thought that was a very nice, subtle touch to how they wanted to bring us closer to the characters and the characters getting closer to each other as well.
Each other.
Like it was always about, I don't think you remember how we were back then. It's always about like how things were in the past and how they are now between them. And it's about trying to
Again,
recapture
reintroducing,
re-experiencing, reintroducing, and all those themes. And also how we were always put in nature with these characters, like essentially under the tree, somebody eating in their house, somebody taking a bath, somebody and the other character sitting opposite, and forming a sort of triangle with the third character sitting in between them, washing clothes, or I don't know, washing utensils,
she was
something like
cooking.
that.
She was cooking.
Cooking.
This sounds
So I
so
realized
much like a movie I would love.
Because
You
it
would.
is.
Okay.
You definitely would. So I really liked how we were always put in an environment like that. We're sort of experiencing lived in spaces essentially. And like, like the essentially the sex that they have at some point, it becomes so, it's not casual is not the word, it becomes like nature, like it just
Lived
exists.
in. It's essentially very much lived in. It's like
It just exists. Yeah.
No,
So
and
I
it's
thought
also very just a sort of point. It's very interesting because the perception of queerness is as unnatural, right? It almost becomes that it is like you said, a part of
Correct.
nature
Yeah,
itself, or
so
something
It
like
does not
this to happen.
sensationalize. Like there's a dialogue also which really moved me, was the one Badia tells Anand about, if about like when Anand asks him, are there more people like you in this village? He's like,
Yeah.
if I exist, of course there are other people
Of
who
course, there
exist
are
in this
other
place
people
as
who
well.
do exist. Yeah.
It's almost about this nature just provide, like it just exists in a place like this.
You mean
It is not sensationalized.
there is no sequence of two bodies melding together for 2 seconds like it is there in Luca Guadagnino's Queer?
No.
I've not seen the movie.
Okay.
Why are you being
This is very
shady
much.
like
This is
that?
very
I'm
much.
surprised you don't like that movie. I didn't know about
I
this.
don't mind it, but
I know Chris likes it because there's an
um,
episode we did.
it's
Yeah.
surrealism is the weakest element of it, in
No,
my
this
opinion.
movie is
So
very much like I said. This is very
you
much
said
like what
Chilan,
if
right?
Nuri Bil
Uh-huh.
Chelan did a
It also
queer
sounds
movie.
a little bit like Apichat Pong to me, but
Api
like that's
Chatpong, yeah.
about the
I have a
nature thing,
question
I
now.
guess. So
So,
Tell me.
looking at other Indian LGBTQ films that have come out in, let's say, the last 10 years or something,
Yeah.
where would you place this film in terms of quality? Like, if you were to tell people to watch this, how would you like to pitch? I'm just trying to figure out. I know the audience is mostly for people who love art house films because this is
Yeah.
essentially treated as one,
Yeah.
even in its like the syntax of its like the way it's shot, edited, acted, and like made essentially. So, give me something. How would you like to pitch this film?
No, if I'm comparing it to Gili Pucci, it's already in the like top 10% of the list. Because
Okay.
to me, Gili Pucci is the benchmark. That's where I
Okay.
sort of my list starts from, right?
Okay.
And there's also a limitation that my exposure to Indian queer films is mainly through Bollywood, and it's sort of mainstream treatments of
I think that's
queerness.
almost for everybody. I think that's
Yeah.
almost for a lot of people also.
So
It's like
Netflix का कचरा देखा है ना आपने सारा?
हाँ.
सारा देखा है
I'm sure
सर।
Amartya has seen Nagar Kirtan.
Yeah, I've seen
Ganguly's-
the Kaushik
Kaushik
Ganguly.
Ganguly?
Back when Kaushik Ganguly used to make good movies. Anyway, continue.
Yeah.
छोड़ो.
So my point is that I think it's extremely if you can get with the art house sensibility, I think it's definitely up there for me as one of the great examples of what queer cinema can mean in an Indian landscape, because the fact remains that our stories are always extremely intersectional, right? The moment you step out of the Bollywood box, they're deeply intersectional stories, because very few people in India exist outside of power structures, outside of queerness itself. You know, it's not like and it is, I think, in that intersectional storytelling, especially in something like Gili Pucci, which is the comparison point for me, that the strength of queer cinema comes out, because then you're not, like you said, sensationalizing it. It's not your showpiece. Queerness is not the thing. I mean, even I know, like I personally am quite fond of even something very mainstream like Made in Heaven, and I really liked how they treat Arjun Mathur, or that's his name, right?
Yeah. Arjun Mathur. Yeah.
Arjun Mathur's character, because it's secondary to the main plot almost, and I almost like it when it's done like that, because then it doesn't become the thing that you're constantly like trying to make, oh, I'm going to talk about it properly. It becomes that you have priorities and it's one of your priorities. And I think that that is part of the process of normalization, where it becomes one of the things in the narrative, and not, oh, we are making a queer film about queer people and this is queer kind of thing. That is what's more beneficial in a larger scheme of things.
Amartya, what about you? How would you, let's say, sort of pitch
No,
it to people if you would?
I think its biggest strength is the fact that it's as much a coming of age story as it is a queer story. So, and the big thing for me is the fact that it makes a happy ending, quote unquote, like I jokingly call the Hays Code endings. It kind of makes a Hays Code ending seem plausible, and not just like a possibility. It makes it a plausibility, and whether anybody wants to agree with it or not, happy endings in queer cinemas are very rare, unless you're making a fucking Bollywood movie and you are trying to make it
don't
like
lump in Bollywood only.
Yeah,
Love
so
Simon and all also exists.
There is Aligarh also, which
there is Aligarh also, but
really
Aligarh ka ending is
film.
also
Aligarh
not
is like the misery end of
Aligarh is the
queer.
misery end.
Yeah.
No, but I think if you're looking at it from the spectrum, again, I agree with Chris. It's like Gili Pucci is at the top, more or less. But I think this comes like a very close second. Nagar Kirtan, surprisingly, I would put it somewhat lower, because I also think that it indulges a tad bit into the misery aspect of it also, if you look at it. It's a great movie, no doubt.
What about Dostana, Amartya?
That's a thing, na?
Dostana is on the proto queer cinema list. We don't put it
Sir,
on the actual queer cinema.
वो proto नहीं है.
I know, but I want to know from you guys, what is like this list even like? Like hai kya or?
No, it's Gili
Muthon is
Pucci.
there. There's Miru
Muthon is
Muthon
there.
there.
There is
Gili
also
Pucci is
Fire.
there. Fire is
Fire
there, of
there
course.
is.
Fire too
I
is
would
like
put it in the top half.
restricted by its time also, no? I'm pretty sure, like
Yeah.
in terms of the filmmaking.
It's 1996. Like
Yeah.
it's
86 नहीं sir, 96 क्या कह रहे हैं?
96. I said 1996.
96 only, sir.
No,
Listen,
Fire and all
86.
would be in the top half, and then there's a drop off, and
Oh,
then it's the
you'll have
Ayushmann
Khufia
Khurrana.
also actually. You really
Yeah, there's
like
Yeah.
Khufia, which
Khufia,
I adore.
Oh,
Again,
lovely.
Khufia does that thing where it's secondary. It is secondary to the larger
Yes.
plot, and that is again. It's again, God, I can wax lyrical about Khufia. I'm gonna restrict myself.
I love
from
that
going on
movie.
that.
I can
sir,
join you.
Amartya और आप दोनों.
I can join you. I have no issue.
it's-
My brother Nikhil is there, which is another movie I really like.
Oneer, na? Oneer, but
Oneer,
Oneer
yeah.
makes very much
Yeah.
your social sort of issue.
And then you
social
have a
issue,
drop
yeah.
off, and then you get your
Oh,
Ayushmann
Shubh Mangal
Khurrana
Zyada.
social
Shubh,
messaging.
oh, how lovely.
Shubh Mangal
that
Zyada
movie is,
Savdhan.
of
Lovely
course.
Industrial
movie.
complex.
Yeah, lovely.
Which I really
So,
like. I'm
where,
sorry.
you know, my standard for queer cinema in Bollywood is Ayushmann Khurrana half naked wearing a pride flag as a cape with a loudspeaker on top of a building shouting
Isn't
gay or something like that.
didn't Kalki Quacklin make a queer movie? I don't
Margarita
know.
with a straw.
Yes, Margarita with a
yes.
straw.
हाँ,
That's
उसमें
also
भी
all right.
secondary है.
But I have my issues with that.
अच्छा,
It's fine.
you don't like even The Sky is Pink, no? Or who doesn't like it? Someone
I
doesn't
haven't
like
seen
don't
it only.
mind it.
Oh.
I
I
don't
haven't
mind
seen
it.
it
Same
only.
director.
Sonali Bose,
Sonali
na?
Bose. हाँ.
Yeah. Okay. Closing remark about the film, like in one line, and then we move on to the next one.
One line. Whenever it comes out, please do watch it. Don't ignore it just because quote unquote it's queer cinema. And yeah, there are people who do that. Don't. Genuinely don't.
Oh, why would you do that? Some of the
Sir,
best cinema
बहुत
comes
लोग
from
हैं,
queer
man.
cinema.
बहुत लोग हैं ऐसे, इसलिए मैं कह रहा हूँ.
Nonsense.
Don't
Chris-
ignore it like that. You just watch it because it is also a lovely coming of age movie about grief, about loss. So look at it from that
Chris,
perspective.
one liner.
Yeah, queerness is tenderness is something we desperately need, as Amartya pointed out, in the Indian cinematic landscape, and also is understanding of queerness. I mean, the social messaging part is inevitable when you have these sort of discussions in our scenario, but the problem with queer miserabilism is it breeds queer miserabilism, and it breeds tokenization.
Queer breeds.
New word.
Queens.
It breeds tokenization and othering in its own way. And if you need to embrace the queer community within the larger Indian society, you need to embrace that queerness does not mean suffering. It means joy, and it means a negotiation with all the forces around us, as every life does. Any marginalized life is about a certain negotiation, and queerness should be afforded that same ability to negotiate as any other.
Sanjeet, cue clip of Ayushmann Khurrana from Shubh Mangal Zyada Savdhan shouting.
Done. So I'm still unsure about what I feel about the film, but I am always.
Why are you unsure? आपने ये नहीं बोला.
I don't know. Like, I have no idea why. Probably because I've been away from this kind of treatment of cinema for a while now.
और क्या सर, वो मेमोरिया में भी सो गया था अच्छा खासा. उसको नहीं अच्छी
so
लगती.
it's been a while. Sir,
अच्छा.
come on. You've justified my sleeping as part of the experience. You cannot say that, okay?
हाँ, क्योंकि
Kidding.
मेमोरिया का भी तो साउंड का ड्रोन वैसा ही है.
No,
ठीक
it
है.
is. I will totally understand if anyone sleeps in Memoria. I have slept. There's no issues.
So
Yeah.
I still know. I think I've just been away from this kind of the treatment of cinema for a while now, I guess. So I just need to reincorporate myself back to this kind of film. But definitely, I am always with the theory of we should watch everything, whatever is possible for a human being at whatever time comfortable. I think we can move on to the next film, which we'll go for is Humans in the Loop, which both Cris and Amartya have seen, which Dhruv and I haven't.
हर कैप्चा के लिए आपके पास 40 सेकंड्स होंगे और आपको सवाल के हिसाब से फोटो मार्क और लेवल करना है. आपका फॉर्म लॉक हो जाएगा टाइम ओवर होने पर, इसलिए आप लोग जल्दी जल्दी करेंगे. ओके?
So
I'm shocked that you guys haven't seen it, considering it's a 1 hour and 12-minute movie.
No, I was just caught up with work. That's precisely
I
why I
was
didn't
just
have
caught up
time
with
to.
nothing. So, you know.
Yes. So I'm more pointing towards Dhruv. I know Sanjeet is very busy. आप क्या
Sir,
कर
I'm
रहे
not
थे?
very busy also. I've been jobless. I went and watched OG also, okay? Even though you sent me.
Ultra jobless.
Sir, my level of joblessness in that sense are unattainable, okay?
Hey, I went and saw
know.
Homebound. That is a big thing for me. Okay, I have not been to watch. I have not watched anything in a while. No, but I'm curious to know about this. I will watch it. It's
Okay.
1 hour, whatever, right? So
I'll
yeah.
just say I'll just tell the synopsis and then we'll just get on to discussing. So Humans in the Loop is directed by Aranya Sahai. A single mother from Orowan tribe balances training AI systems and reconnecting with her roots, with her pre-teen son struggles to accept their new life away from city. It's
Preteen
already
daughter.
been awarded India Grand Prix Best Film by the FIPRESCI. I think that's
Yeah,
the
for
Fibresky. Yeah, yeah,
Prisky
yeah.
from
is
Cannes,
the
no?
No, this is the
Is it not
no,
Indian
this is
Cannes?
version.
Indian critics, this thing, right? Which
Fibresky, yeah.
Amartya knows about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And also a bunch of Indian film festivals like New York Indian Film Festival and others. So Amartya and Cris, guys, just yap about it quickly.
Listen, the premise itself is very fascinating because if you consider
It is actually,
yeah, if you consider the entire scare about what AI is going to do, take away jobs and everything, the fact is like AI data collation or providing data for AI, it is essentially giving new jobs, and it is giving new jobs to indigenous women. This is the
Okay.
story of one such indigenous woman
Interesting.
who is basically
Benefiting.
hired, who
Yeah.
is basically hired to give data towards an AI. Essentially, like जो pictures आ रहे हैं, pictures से human body का trace करके या skin color वैसे like data, you are basically giving data towards the AI so that the AI can become more robust. That is essentially a job, and these sort of jobs are being given to indigenous women. So it's also again, it's another article based movie, quote unquote. And
Okay.
in a scenario like that, I think there are two stories that are following in this entire movie, which is one of that is the indigenous woman working and treating the AI as some sort of a newborn kid, associating it with her own newborn kid, and the teenage kid that she's having trouble with. So she's essentially viewing the AI as a child.
Okay.
A
Like
tool
a
to
Black
learn.
Mirror sort of thingy?
No. It doesn't go
Okay.
that far. It doesn't go that
Good.
far. Though the implication is very bad, but anyway, it
Okay.
doesn't matter. The second premise is her family life and her family issue. I'm bringing up these two premises because the movie from a premise standpoint is extraordinary. The movie from an execution standpoint cannot integrate those two premises together, which is why it doesn't work.
Okay. So it's not a good
Whenever
movie. तो फिर आप मुझे क्यों बोल रहे थे देखने के
it
लिए?
is okay. It is
Oh,
okay.
okay.
It is okay.
Okay.
I like
I
it
think the
when it
premise
is.
is
I
premise
like it
is
when
very
it is
interesting.
exploding in
start
the
watching it, I feel. Yeah.
It is exploring the AI space. When it is exploring the AI space and the narrative का like denouement जो होता है with regards to the AI space, and what like if you are going to prompt something like indigenous woman and the AI gives you pictures, constructed pictures, the pictures actually produced are indigenous women and not white women dressed in indigenous garb. The fact that the AI can do that, that's a denouement that this movie explores. How can the AI do that? So when the narrative is focused on that, the movie is sublime. It flies.
Okay.
When the narrative is focused on everything else that is quote unquote character based or character exploration, it is like well done for the effort and well done for the fact that you are exploring something that has not been explored before, but I am really not interested.
Okay.
And that's the problem here. That integration is not done very well.
Yeah.
That is the major problem. Anyway, this is basically my thinking. Cris, follow up.
Yeah, I think I'm with Amartya in the sense that it feels simultaneously too on the nose and too undercooked at the same time in a certain way. Where there is so
ये तो मेरा
essentially
criticism था.
so the
Sorry.
so it follows particular like regional or tribal practices where this woman is part of, she's called a dukhni. She's a woman who is in an unmarried relation with a man,
The
and so they are,
marriage practice is Dukhni, by the way, not the
yeah,
tribe. I was being
no,
I was
yeah, yeah,
corrected in my letterbox review by somebody.
yes,
Yeah.
no,
So
dukhu is the
Hopefully, genially corrected, not
yeah,
like.
genially.
Okay.
no, dukhu is the practice. Dukhni is the woman who does the
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
this thing. So she has a child, two children with this man, but she's not legally married to him, and the marriage is not legally recognized. So she can't get
Recognized
legal
by the
protection
government. Yeah.
by the
Okay.
government, and so she wants to hold custody of her children, which would require her to have a stable job, which would allow them for this custody. So the idea is that you're trying, and because she's in such a sort of difficult
Dire
position, she's
state.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not been able to develop a relationship with her teenage daughter, not son. I don't know why that's what the synopsis says, but
Sir,
so,
AI,
I'm sorry
sir.
for that.
Sir, AI, sir.
I'm
AI,
sorry for
sir.
that.
it's trying to reconcile this sort of indigenous practice and existence with the modern sort of bringing in. But I think my fundamental problem is that
Theoretically,
this is,
it's theoretically very sound, right, Chris? But it's like
I
practice mein
again, I
garbad
don't
hai.
know if theoretically it is also sound, because again it doesn't. I think there are questions about AI that it doesn't ask. There are too many. Again, I come from the humanities at a time where AI discourse and discussion is the thing, and so for me, actually very interesting. I was reminded of this article. It's about 6 years old. It was on The Verge, and it was called The Trauma Floor, and it's a little slightly different, but it was about content moderation on social media platforms, right? So it was about this the company Cognizant used to have, or has this practice of people sitting and moderating content on social media sites. And content moderation includes the fact that if they ban, say, see some child sexual abuse material, violence, and all of that, their job is to watch this and say that it's not, you can't put this on there. So it's an extremely traumatic job, where your job is to watch this horrific material and then categorize it as not good. So there is a lot of process, or like proceduralization of the human body and the experience that happened in order to feed this big tech machinery, which I think is looming over something like Humans in the Loop, because you've got this moment where the manager, who's a very, very wonderful character in the movie, has a discussion with her bosses about, so one of the conflicts in the story is that this character is trying to stay rooted to her indigenous practices, and there is a task where she has to label pests in crops.
Label pests as pests, but her point is that those are not pests. Those actually work for the environment.
And the technology is meant to kill the pests. So she refuses to categorize it as pests, and she categorizes it as crops or as whatever. And so
she doesn't
poisons
categorize. She doesn't categorize, which is the issue.
She doesn't.
Yeah.
So it gets it poisons the data, and it leads to the machine not functioning properly. And the bosses come in and berate this manager, saying that, oh, we can't rely on your services if you're not doing it correct. And I think there's a relationship with big tech and how these indigenous women are made into these procedural
Essentially,
people
they're coded, right? Like the machine, they are coded.
Yeah. First of all, this is a movie which needed a larger runtime. I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is a movie which needed a longer runtime.
When do you ever say that?
Yeah, this is a movie which firstly needed a longer runtime. Secondly, this is a movie which needed to tackle all the questions that big tech is actually looming in. Like if it is your choice to show oh look, AI is coming, we have to accept it. This is the good thing about AI. This is the bad thing about AI. You cannot just do a touch and go of the good things about AI and just walk away. You need to tackle it because it is an important topic. Your way of entry is so interesting. Your payoff or your denouement needs to be equally, or at least equivalently, more interesting.
I would guess ambiguity would work in the context of this if it's like haunting. Like, like the whole idea
the
that...
problem is not that. Like I said, it's a little too on the nose, because the metaphor gets beaten over your head a little bit. In the sense
AI
that
bacha hai. AI bacha.
The manager tells her, treat the AI like the child. So there's literally an idea of the AI learns how to walk. based on the data that these women put in. And similarly, she has a
And
child
that's
who's
why a
learning how
human
to
model,
walk.
a human being a model, then finally begins to start walking. I'm like, okay. I mean, ठीक है, 1 घंटे 12 मिनट है, you don't have time, you're putting on the nose metaphor.
So
I
so
get
for
it.
what happens is that the mother-daughter relationship is immensely like surface level. Like you don't
It's
understand
interstitial to the point that you can just remove it and nothing will change.
nothing, and all of the dynamics
Okay.
you have to put in the work. Okay, because she was in dire straits, she
Sure.
couldn't look after the daughter, thus they have a strained. None of that work is done. It's just that they have a
Okay.
strained
And honestly, it's not the fault of literally any of the actors, because
Hmm.
all of the
दिया
actors
नहीं
are
है,
really
material
good.
नहीं है.
Material nahi hai. That is the bigger of
And
problem
it's
here.
also not that the material that exists it's bad, it's that there are just gaping holes in
Holes,
the
sure.
narrative and the thematics which cannot be bridged because there is nothing to bridge
Nothing
them.
to
So
bridge.
so
Common
the
line नहीं
idea,
है ना, commonality कुछ नहीं है
so
इसमें.
the problem becomes that
Began,
it
you
sort of
both
inadvertently
began with this by making it seem like this is a pretty decent movie that we haven't seen, and
Yeah,
you've
and now you
very
both
much
are like
devolved
completely
into
doing the
thinking
opposite
that it's
job of
I mean
No,
it's
no,
like a
it's
good
don't
movie.
watch
Yeah.
the movie.
again, my issue is it has two premises which don't collate.
Yeah.
One premise, extraordinary. The other premise, surface level to the point that you can remove it. If
Yeah.
you want to watch the movie just for the
So
single
essentially,
premise,
you
go ahead
think
and
it
watch
could
it.
have just started as a short film and then
Exactly.
essentially ended up
Either
becoming
that
like
or either just
Yeah,
a
but
longer film that like is about the intricacies
no,
of
but
both.
Either just a
again
longer
the
film and explore the ramifications with
yeah,
with a stronger voice.
because like I said, it ends up inadvertently running a defense for this technology without
Oh.
reconciling of what the
Yeah.
technology means in a larger scale, which is honestly a little bit irresponsible, especially because it tries to draw these parallels or these possible reconciliation between more indigenous ways of living and practices and its sort
Which,
of
to be fair to
integration
the
into
film,
the larger.
to be fair to the film, the source article was technically about that. So I understand where it is coming from. But on 2025, you cannot just rest on that. You have to raise definitive questions. I'm not saying provide answers, but at
Yeah,
least raise questions.
Yeah.
It reflects a very 2019, 2020, 2021
Like an
reflection
optimism
or
for big tech.
or for big tech that was when AI first, when GPT was
But you know,
before ChatGPT
Bolo,
became
is
bolo.
it I don't know about this, but is it possible that it was shot then, or because I have no idea what
Maybe I
is there
don't
in the
know
film.
either. I don't know either.
Because
Genuinely, I don't know.
Aranya Sahai is an FTI graduate from 2020 batch, I
Oh, okay.
think.
It might be like
So
something
Might
that
be like
began
that.
that was his
in
grad
conception
film.
then and then sort of
Might be
Yeah, but
like
then
that.
it becomes a problem that's
Yes,
a
of course.
persistent problem with cinema about technology in a sense that unless you're reconciling or you're reckoning with the very fundamental principles of its existence, the times change and thus it feels incredibly out of date on landing then, unfortunately.
Yes, got it.
So it becomes that it shares like, when GPT was first announced and before ChatGPT became very ubiquitously available, there was this optimism of, oh, you can generate this. Oh, there was that idea that this could be a revolution in a pause. AI bacha hai, and that we have the ability to shape it, and we live in a culture now where we are being
And now we
equally
have the
shaped
ability to
by
shape it, and we have shaped it into this.
The Omen
and we are
essentially
being
it's become,
shaped
right?
by it.
Like
Yes.
Daniel.
Daniel, yes.
Okay.
Antichrist nonsense.
Damien, sorry, not Daniel.
Final thoughts on the film, like last remarks by Cris. Only one
Okay.
line.
Like Amartya said, it is interesting if you're interested in depictions, or I also think it's like, how do you present artificial intelligence, for example, or any technology in a cinematic medium to an audience that may not understand its technicalities? I think there's something very interesting there just as a use of the medium, but it is something that requires far more to be worked on. So it's an interesting film to watch. It's definitely enjoyable in parts and meaningful.
And it is short enough that you won't feel like you wasted your time. So yeah.
Exactly.
Amartya, last remark. Only
वही
one
तो
line.
बोल दिया उसने.
बोल दिया ना.
That's
Great
all.
premise, too
But
short.
I wanted to ask a question.
Bolo.
What is your best depiction of AI in film or whatever?
मेरा किसका?
Like everyone's here.
2001.
AI कहाँ है उसमें है?
I mean,
HAL ही तो
The
AI है.
HAL is supposed to be
HAL.
AI, no?
हेली तो
Sir,
है
come
यार।
on. Give some fun answer, not like the cliched one.
फान आंसर चाहिए अरे।
Fun answer you want? I will give you Sifra.
Oh,
Okay.
I was about to say you will
Yes.
100% say this. मेरे पास था
Okay,
fun answer इसलिए
before
मैंने
we
सोचा
move
था.
on to that,
कौन
let's
सा
move on. I
Shrouds
don't.
वाला?
The World's End.
Oh God.
World's End.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh God.
World's End, which one?
I have
The
Bryan.
World's End,
Oh,
not This Is
okay,
the End.
Edgar Wright.
I
Edgar
have
Edgar
Bryan
Wright.
Cranston.
Okay.
I have Bryan Cranston का AI in Power Rangers movie. Oh God, that was. Anyway, yeah.
Anyway, Sanjeet, you are on the spot. You are alone in the
Yes,
spotlight.
Alone.
Yes.
The last film that we were supposed to discuss, which is essentially just me who was going to
Yes.
talk. I'll keep it really short and non-spoilery for people who haven't watched it, which is
Which
most
is
people.
everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is Jugnuma, titled as The Fable when it released in international markets and festivals.
इन पहाड़ों में सब सुंदर था, अच्छा था, लेकिन हल्की सी ठोकर और अच्छे भले इंसान बिखर जाते।
Papa! आग लगी है पापा। In the north wing.
हम लोग कल पता करते हैं जले पेड़ों के बारे में।
कल रात को फिर आग लगी मोहन।
जिसने भी किया है उसने वो जानबूझकर चुना ताकि मुझे दिखाई दे सके।
वेल अगर ऐसा है तो वो लोग तुम्हें जानते होंगे।
आई थिंक दिस मैटर इज वेरी सीरियस। सर, इधर वेस्ट की तरफ से भी धुआं नजर आ रहा है।
आग बुझा रहे हैं कि मजे लेने क्या हम?
कोई कुछ बताना चाहता है क्या मुझे गांव में? किसी को कुछ चाहिए क्या मुझसे?
Premiered at
It's
Berlin, right? Last year.
premiered in Berlin Film Festival last year. So I was actually supposed to go for this film. I had bought a ticket, but unfortunately I got late. So of course I wasn't allowed entry. And then I was outside and Deepak Dobriyal walked in saying, "Oh, film चालू हो गई." I was like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "Okay, अब तो जा ही नहीं सकते. चलो बाहर सिगरेट पीते हैं." So he's like, अब करना क्या है? ये तो करना है और So that was that, and it won Mami's Special Jury Award last year at
Played?
Mami Festival.
Acha,
Yeah.
acha, yeah, last year. Sorry.
Last year, yes.
Sorry,
Not
I'm
last
still
to last
reeling.
year.
I'm still reeling, sir. Sorry.
Yes, Dhruv is
Yeah.
still reeling from 2023 Mami
Yeah.
Film Festival.
Yeah.
And it also won at Leeds International Film Festival. And also, I guess, a bunch of other awards, which I haven't noted down.
Does
But
it have
the-
any like streaming, like वो आया like, because yesterday when I was homebound 2 सेकंड में वो टडंग आ गया था and I was like, oh.
Netflix
Yeah,
का।
no,
Yeah.
there was no
Okay.
streaming.
Sir,
this
कौन
thing.
लेगा? That is the bigger question.
वही तो ले
कौन
ले, मुझे भी
लेगा ये
देखनी है।
movie?
Jugnuma,
मुझे भी तो देखना है।
I'll just tell the premise, which is after discovering burnt trees in his orchard, a wealthy landowner grows suspicious of his workers and nomads passing through his vast estate, which essentially doesn't explain the film at all. It is entirely about a lot of other things, but also this, which is just an aspect and an element in the whole story that it is. It is directed by Raam Reddy, who directed Tithi last, which was I think 2016, which is another brilliant film. If watch it, if
That's
you
on
haven't.
Netflix, no?
I think so. Now it is on Netflix.
Okay.
But at that time, we used memes.
That's like a
which were-
generational family drama, right?
Yeah, but more so the interesting aspect of when I watched that movie was that he made a village act, like bunch of non-actors act the whole film.
Oh, okay. Got
To
it.
me, that was the more enticing thing when I
Sure.
watched it. But Jugnuma is stars Deepak Dobriyal, stars Manoj Bajpayee as the lead, essentially the main protagonist. Has Priyanka Bose also in the film.
Tilotama Shome is there or no?
Tilotama Shome is also there in the film, but has a very brief appearance. Apparently, he had a longer this thing, but she's only
Okay.
there for like a couple of scenes and
Okay.
not much. It's presented by Anurag Kashyap as well. Yeah, and Guneet Monga is one of the executive
How
producers.
lovely.
So, why is that a sarcastic
Elephant.
remark?
कहीं पे
Elephant whisperers.
विस्पर हो रहा है हाथी का, इसलिए।
Okay, never mind. but it still at least gets distribution at the
Of
end
course,
of
of
the day.
course.
That's the
No,
more
no,
important thing.
Guneet
I
Monga
just
also did Kill, a movie which both
which
Sanjeet and I
I've
really
still not
liked.
seen. So yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Very fun.
She's also done a Tamil film called Surare Potru with Surya. And
Yes. Which
apparently,
Akshay Kumar remade.
apparently from insider sources, she's going to produce the next Karthik Subbaraj movie.
Wow.
So that's a big,
Is Karthik
film
Subbaraj
that-
going to work with Shah Rukh Khan next? He did in a
No, I
ad.
don't think so. But he's definitely making a film. Not definitely, but like most probably making a film with.
But wait,
Jugnuma. But
Jugnuma
anyway,
is in Hindi.
Yeah.
it is English.
Okay.
But the one which played was Hindi, so they dubbed over those English lines as well
Why?
in cinema.
I
don't
am
know, maybe
checking
for it to reach
Letterboxd
out.
का I am checking Letterboxd का premise, ये तो पूरा कहानी लिख दिया है.
Oh.
So don't read, no. So I'll just give you a
in
bit
Delhi, I
brief.
think it's screened in both Hindi and English. You
आप
could
क्यों नहीं गए,
opt
sir?
between
No,
either.
in
Shows
Hyderabad,
like they are 10 बजे को सर एक शो होता है हफ्ते
Oh,
में.
okay.
कौन जाएगा?
in Hyderabad,
सब
essentially,
जाते
it didn't have any division.
मैं
It was just
नहीं
like,
जा
okay,
सकता
this is
सर.
the
I'm
only-
sorry. रात
वो
के 10
बस
बजे मैं नहीं देखने जा रहा
those
picture.
priorities are just for Mr. Sunny
Sunny
and Mr.
Sanskari की
Sanskari
तुलसी
and
कुमारी.
Mrs. Tulsi
सर वो
and
मैंने
Mrs.
दोपहर के
Kumari.
1:30 बजे
नहीं
को
नहीं
देखा
संजीत
था.
संजीत
But
आप
if it
बोलो
was at
संजीत आप बोलो
7 a.m., you would have gone for 7
Sorry.
a.m. show for Sunny
Sorry.
Sanskari.
आप बोलो
Sorry,
No,
Chris.
so
Sorry. It's fine.
I'll just give a
Go ahead.
brief this thing that the film takes place in 1989 Himalayas, and it is essentially narrated after 35 years from the said events that happened in that particular year. So the film is a slow burn. It's shot beautifully on 16 mm film by Sunil Borkar. I think the idea of it was to make it look very different from what you usually watch. So I think it really succeeds in that. It is immersive, and in a way, like, you keep on walking through fields with, sun glazing through these fields, and like Manoj Bajpayee's character is walking through this. And
I have
essentially,
a question. It suddenly struck
incident-
me. It suddenly struck me. Is this like a very Terrence Malick type movie?
it breathes a lot, but it's not pondering on questions about
Existence.
a higher
and
being.
Whatever. Yes, yes.
Okay.
No, it's not. It's more to do with, I mean, there are subtle elements in this,
Sure.
which I think you will decipher when you watch. You're like, okay, this person owns like so much land, right? Like insane amount, acres and acres of land, like I don't know, 600, 700 acres of land. I don't know how much more, which is like insane. And like, there are so many people that work under him. So his idea about what he needs to actually survive are like the essential questions, which I thought were really interesting. But I think one thing that really took me by surprise was the opening sequence. So I am really like jettisoning that that part that when you guys will watch it, you know what is going to happen. Like it starts off as something so mundane, but it takes off in another direction completely, which I was like, okay, so this is the tone of the film. Which it just
Amartya,
goes
you're
in a
in
different
for
direction.
you're in for another Bardo, I guess, because it's like jumping,
Jumping,
flying.
नहीं but the main thing जो मुझे
It's
समझ
not
में आ रहा है
Bardo-ish. It's not Bardo-ish at all.
Okay.
It has elements which really
It's
take
like
itself
it
into a
has
surreal element.
like वही like I was trailer से लग रहा था like it's got that very odd mix of real and surreal.
Yes.
Fantasy, yeah.
The surreal fantasy mix is the actual incident that happens, but the stuff around it feels surreal. Like,
Okay.
I don't know. I can't explain it much more than this. I
That's
feel
fine,
it's-
Sanjay. That's okay. We'll watch
Because I
it
feel-
whenever it
No, because
arrives
I am
to
more
us, which is
intrigued.
never.
I am more intrigued because everybody who has seen it, they are like, मुझे कुछ समझ में नहीं आया. And I'm like, you people have seen so many movies. आप लोगों को कुछ समझ में नहीं आया. बोलो मुझे कुछ
No,
समझ
the
में नहीं आया.
Sir,
answers
that
are right
doesn't
in
matter.
front of you,
वो
actually.
दूसरी पिक्चरें उनको समझ आई या नहीं आई जो देखी हैं?
मुझे नहीं पता ना.
हाँ तो सर तो फिर क्यों भरोसा करोगे कि ये समझ आएगी?
No,
क्योंकि
the
ये
thing
लोग
is-
इतना सिनेमा देखते हैं ना इसलिए.
the thing
देखने का
I'll just
मतलब समझ
tell-
आएगा नहीं तो नहीं हुआ ना सर.
I'll tell is basically this character exists amongst nature, and everything about all these characters is about existing in nature.
This
And
sounds
that
very
sort of-
Terrence Malick, sir.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking also.
Maybe, but the treatment is not anywhere
Sure.
close to that, I feel.
Okay.
But there is an element which is just
There
beautiful
is
when it
one
happens.
shot. There is one shot in the Fable ka trailer which is reminded me of Days of Heaven.
हाँ, Locust.
हाँ,
Okay,
exactly.
okay,
तो
that
homage हो भी
shot
सकता है. हाँ.
वो हो भी
which
सकता है.
looks almost unfilmable, but I don't know how they did it also actually.
Sir,
For what they
Sergio
did.
Days of Heaven
exist
में तो वो like they actually rewinded the footage. Like it's not real time.
No, but here I'm like they are not operating on a big budget. It's
Sure.
very clear.
Yeah.
So because essentially all the side actors are non-actors,
Sure.
which is Raam Reddy already excelling in like making these people act and all that. So I thought that was an interesting element, but it's a very meditative piece in its own essentially as well. But it
देखते
doesn't
देखते
have the
सो
same
जाएंगे सर वैसी है अच्छी
doesn't have
है
the
ना
same
उतनी
treatment as what Sabar Bonda had. That's what I'm
Sure.
trying to say.
Nice.
It
नींद
doesn't.
आ
It
जाएगी ना
lingers.
देखते देखते
It lingers on, but it is also trying to reach out to you in a very meditative, surreal way. And maybe using these keywords so that when you watch, it will become like
नहीं
part
नहीं
of your
जो भी नींद आ जाएगी ना देखते देखते is my big thing.
No,
I can
I
sleep to
don't
this
think so.
film. No?
No.
Okay.
No,
Sir, आप
I don't.
Solaris
sleep
खत्म
to
करो.
Sabar
आप सो
Bonda,
जाओगे.
so-
I can
आप
sleep to
You can
Solaris
sleep to
खत्म
Sabar
करो.
Bonda for sure.
No.
Yeah, you can sleep to
Which
Sabar.
is not a thing that I should say, but yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
No, this is a compliment. Sorry, just for
Yes.
me at least. I like sleeping to good movies.
Yeah. Also आप Solaris खत्म करो. आप खत्म
नहीं
किया
नहीं
आपने?
वो
Yeah.
नहीं सर वो नहीं
this episode already went on for 2 hours.
I told you
Even though
sir.
but I was expecting like 1 hour 15 minutes essentially.
No sir,
But
you
it's
are
okay.
wrong.
You've
Okay,
got too many yappers here, sir.
Yeah, which is true. I mean, I tried not digressing as much as possible, even though we did digress multiple times. Some of it for I'm only responsible. But I think this is the end of the episode. So most of these films did release in theaters in the month of September. So
In
And
India.
now
hope
all of them have
in
disappeared.
India,
In
and
very
now all of them-
limited releases, right? Like very
all of them were
limited.
very limited releases in big cities only. So
Yeah.
most of them were almost inaccessible to someone like Amartya.
Or
and
me,
even
what does that mean?
You're in Dubai, sir. You cannot say anything.
आप
तो
जो-
दुबई में थोड़ी ना रिलीज हुई थी.
But that's not the point. You're
Sir,
not in like,
मैं
No,
मैं
but
backward
India, you're
एकदम
they weren't
outside
में
India
रहता हूँ.
only.
मैं कहाँ रहता हूँ भूल रहे हो.
Humans in the loop. If the Fable was out here, I would have gone and watched it.
You would have, and I'm sure you would have had a good opinion
Sir,
about it. Like, I'm very certain about it.
genuinely, Homebound at least came to Shiliguri. Now even that is gone. क्योंकि कंतारा आ चुकी है, Homebound is gone.
वो तो
तो
वहां से भी निकल गई, दिल्ली से निकल
the
गई.
nature of cinemas in
Yeah.
general in India, right? That basically tells
I mean,
what is happening.
you're saying Kantara
Barring-
आई और चले गई. Chris's
Sorry,
other
sorry.
favorite film took over. Dharma.
Which is another Dharma film.
हाँ,
Yeah,
Dharma
yeah.
ने धर्मा
which
का
is
कर्मा.
an appalling
essentially.
release
Appalling.
strategy.
And it's also like
Dhruv, how proud are you for saying that Dharma ka karma? I don't know.
and also the fact is, since we are talking about this distribution of these movies being this appalling is almost like अगर यही हो रहा है तो
Yeah.
why just theatrical के पीछे भागना बंद करो ना आप at this point. देख
No,
तो रहे हो.
See, I feel theatrical is important because I feel now the general consensus has become cinema big film. I disagree with that notion because I'm like cinema should be for every film.
But current climate तो वो नहीं है ना.
I
That is the
feel
bigger
current
problem.
climate से हम लोग 5 साल आगे आ गए हैं. Like I feel pandemic 2021, 2022 तक it felt okay saying कि I understand why smaller films wouldn't get exhibition. Because for smaller film exhibition, OTTs were made for that, right? And even those have been taken over by bigger films now. So where do films that are of smaller nature, smaller budget, telling stories which don't usually appeal to a larger audience, where do they go?
Sir,
economic
film
model की भी तो
festivals.
problem. Once economic model की भी तो problem है ना, sir.
Yeah.
You can go for anything in the theater when you can
No,
afford to go for anything
see,
in the theater.
These films weren't doing great back then either. 10 years back, they weren't doing that great either. Like Masan was made on a budget of 8 crores, still did 2 crores only. If you adjust it for inflation, that's also not a lot of money at the end of the day. My point is, exhibition is important. It will eventually reach out to its original audience
It
has
will
to, but I'm
find
saying
its audience. Yeah.
don't deny films from getting released irrespective of the size of the
Of
film,
course.
because it takes away from the idea of what films are for. Otherwise, you're just talking about projects
Yeah.
and sequels and
Also-
IPs, and then
वो तो है ही, वो
and
तो
how
Also-
much that you will get exhausted with. Yeah.
A small request, even though of course no one will hear that, but when you are premiering your films at a film festival, it would be quite nice if people who attend the film festival can watch the film. You know, the cinemas isn't reserved for all of the family members of the person who has made the film. It's just a simple thing.
एक सेकंड आई कैन
Yeah,
अंडरस्टैंड
this
ध्रुव
is
का
with-
ध्रुव का
okay,
कहाँ
एक
से
one
बात आ रहा है. मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है कि क्वेश्चन नहीं, मेरा एक ही पॉइंट है. ऑल दी स्मॉलर फिल्म्स गेटिंग एग्जीबिशंस आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड. यू नो व्हाट वुड एक्चुअली हेल्प इफ यू गिव दी स्मॉलर फिल्म्स गुड शो टाइम्स.
Yeah.
That's the right thing to say. Yes, I agree
गुड
with
शो
that.
टाइम्स.
Exactly.
Yes.
रात के
Don't-
10 बजे कोई होमबाउंड देखने नहीं जा रहा है भाई. आई एम सॉरी.
I remember this
especially
actually
when-
distinctly.
नहीं देखने
I remember
जाता
this
भाई.
distinctly with something like Autumn, which came here actually,
Hmm.
and
Yes.
it had shows at 11:30 p.m. And I'm like, sir, like what do you actively not want people to see this film?
Yeah,
That's
you
why you
know,
put
and
it then.
these
Essentially,
showtimes,
if you
these
want-
showtimes exhibit a lack of confidence in a movie, which requires confidence from producers and distributors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You are
Distributors
actively
more
telling-
so.
Yeah, you are
Distributors more so.
actively telling people that we don't have any confidence in your movie. ये
Yeah.
कैसे हुआ भाई?
No, in
ऐसे
that
तो
sense,
नहीं
the
कुछ हो
reason
सकता.
I was able to watch Homebound in the cinema is also because they were showing shows at least at reasonable at afternoon times and so on and so forth. Like
Yeah.
I can tell you, like for me personally, I can't go for a 6 p.m. show. That is my personal constraint.
Yeah.
I can't go for a 10 p.m. show. You put anything in up to like late afternoon, like even put a 4 p.m. show, I can go for it. When you're like Sabar Bonda, I wanted to go so bad. There was one couple of days it had one 5:45 show. Rest was all 9,
Sir,
10,
साबर
11.
बोंडा, आई एम टेलिंग यू, साबर बोंडा कोलकाता में रिलीज ही नहीं हुआ. एंड आई एम टॉकिंग कोलकाता. मैं तो यहाँ का तो एक्सपेक्टेशन ही नहीं कर सकता. कोलकाता में ही रिलीज नहीं हुआ साबर बोंडा.
And sir,
Sir,
वो
you
छोड़
had
sir,
very
दिल्ली
important
में-
films playing there, no?
हाँ बाप रे, महान मूवीज. मैं कुछ
Sir,
बता
I
ही नहीं
All
रहा हूँ.
files.
अगर दिल्ली में the one place you would expect that these things do come, अगर तब
Yeah.
भी like I checked for Boong as well, the only show is at 10 o'clock in the night.
Yeah, also, we need to acknowledge another indie
Yeah.
film that released this month was Boong, which is a Manipuri film, but it barely had any showtimes around, at least in Hyderabad, so not at all. So that film was missed by most of us, but it had Farhan Akhtar's name attached to it. So the basic expectation would be, yeah, at least it gets a certain release in
At
bigger
least कोई
cities.
तो टाइम दो. At least अच्छा
Very
टाइम दो.
least, you know. Chris, you were saying, continue.
Yeah, so my point is that the other thing is you don't know about, like I heard about Boom the first time Varun mentioned it in our group chat just before we started
वो
recording.
भी उसको
I
पता
live
चला
in
होगा
Delhi.
because Farhan Akhtar attached था. So
हाँ इसलिए.
I live in Delhi. I go to theaters regularly. I'm always on Book My Show. I'm someone who generally knows what is coming out.
इतना
तो
promote
उतना
मत
भी
करो
नहीं
sir
पता.
अपने show को.
Whatever
हाँ.
in generic in like a ticket booking site of choice. The point being that I should know if films are coming up because I'm actively seeking out even smaller films. So
Yeah.
neither is the showtimes good nor is there any publicity at all. So if you don't even put in the effort to tell people picture aa rahi hai, कैसे देखेंगे?
I mean,
It's not कौन
essentially,
देखेंगे?
it happened with a film like Nishanchi also, where a name like
Yeah.
Anurag Kashyap is attached, where the film is essentially catering to the North
Mass,
Indian audiences,
sort
which
of.
you can just,
सर
which is
आपका
should be.
टाउन का
It
थिएटर
was based in
खाली
my
था.
city. I went to watch it in my city when I was home. There were literally just 10 people in my screen. There were only 2 shows in that same theater. There were 2 shows almost in 4 cinemas at max and nowhere else. So it just feels like there needs to be a newer way to promote films, because I feel it's just we've exhausted whatever avenues are
सिर्फ
there.
प्रमोशन का बात नहीं है ना. सिर्फ प्रमोशन का बात नहीं है. There needs to be, at this point there needs to be a law. There needs to be a quote unquote an exhibition
of
law.
course, but my other point that I'm trying to say is, see, I know, I genuinely believe there needs to be more cultivation of culture in terms of getting these films released, so that at least when you have 8 people, it can grow to 10, 20, 30, and then it releases in smaller towns and there 2 people go. So there needs to be more commitment to this. If you double down on this now, then maybe 10 years down the line, these films will be successes. I genuinely believe in that. I just think not giving a chance to these movies is just like finishing and giving a verdict, no, this doesn't work at all, and it's just counterproductive to everything.
एक एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव या एक लीगल रेकनिंग भी चाहिए अभी इस टाइम पे, ठीक है, विद कैपिटलिस्ट कॉकरोचेस, yeah, with capitalist cockroaches with capitalist cockroaches of these sorts becoming exhibitors at this point, and they are like taking over everything. ठीक है, like एक मूवी के लिए 6 शोज 7 शोज like 10 minutes apart. I'm like क्यों भाई? Especially
क्यों
after
भाई?
a
तो you
week
know
when the-
because they'll
after a
watch
movie
it.
after a week when the movie has crashed. After a week when the movie has crashed,
So
अब
they
तो
are
निकालो.
हाँ अब तो निकालो या फिर I was like they are essentially trying to ram in as many audiences and before everyone says it's a
Yeah.
pile of whatever, pile of nice things, of course.
Which War 2 tried to do, if you recall
Yeah.
correctly, like
Yeah.
War 2
Which
also
some
tried
of
to
you
do.
went and
big
watched.
films do it.
Who watched in the hall? War 2.
Chris,
I did as well.
Chris and
आप भी गए हो, right?
No, it's okay.
I support queer cinema, okay?
Oh yes, that is a
Lame.
very
That's a
queer
lame
cinema.
excuse to come up with.
That is a very
It's
queer
not
cinema.
an excuse. I don't need to come up with excuses. Come on. At this
I kid.
point.
Sir, वो तो queer cinema है ही 100% War 2.
But okay, I think this is the end of the episode. We've discussed 4 films. I don't know, Homebound can be put in independent cinema, but sure, like let's say film, indie. Okay, part of like the indie cinema,
Sir,
which
indie
were there
है.
in cinemas in September. Hopefully, more films come out in the coming few months and are not restricted to just like 1 month a year. That I think it's an anomaly that has happened in the last, I don't know, 5-6 years.
सबका लॉटरी नंबर एक ही महीने में खुला that type की अब रिलीज होएगी.
अब रिलीज हो रही है. So
Also an advice to distributors and to the people who are selling these movies, who are basically asking people to go out and watch these movies. Do not like utilize the reach of quote unquote influencers and let them tell us कि जाके please ये movie देखो, audience ने fail कर दी ये movie. Don't do that. Don't do that.
I know who you're shading, so why would you do that?
I have no idea about it, but
no, my point is don't do that. You cannot, like, audience is already to blame for a lot of things. You cannot blame an audience for not getting the correct timings to go and watch a movie. You cannot do that. जब timings
I
नहीं है
think
movie
people
देखने का,
do put an effort when it is
Yeah.
feasible for a lot of them,
When it is
because it's not,
feasible.
anyway, it's not a common man's medium anymore. Like cinema
Yeah.
is not the same as it used to be. So we have to cope up with the fact that if it is only a possibility that people will be, I mean, I had the time, only then I was able to go and watch these films
Exactly,
and
na.
like I can do my part. But if I was busy and if I have been busy, then I will not be able to, like, humans in the loop wasn't
And if
available
there
near
are-
me. Neither did it have showtimes where I would be like, I will travel 40 minutes for a film like that to different part of the city. It's not that easy.
And
So
if there are people,
okay, people
and if-
are trying.
Yeah,
And I
there are
hope
people
it will get
not
better.
like us. There are people not like us, not like cinephiles, who actively work, who have legit work jobs, but who are interested in movies like this, who want to watch movies
Yeah.
like this, say.
Yeah.
And then they open any one of the booking apps. I'm not pointing the
Yeah.
brand's name out. Okay. Then they open any one of the booking apps and then they see कि वो मूवी का टाइमिंग तो है ही नहीं. जो मूवीज अवेलेबल है वो बिग बजट
हाँ.
मूवीज अवेलेबल है. हर एंड में 10
Okay,
मिनट
sir.
बाद वो ही मूवी.
Okay, sir.
So I'm
समझ
like,
गया.
क्या करो और
No.
Yes, sir.
I think everything our grievances have been noted in all perspectives.
grievances
and
which have already been expressed have been noted. ऐसा नहीं है कि ये
expressed
पहले नहीं
previously
बोला
as well.
पहले ये,
Yes,
हाँ.
yes.
The only
But
reason
in
we
an
have any freedom
episode,
to
but in an
express.
episode which specifically talks about the films that don't usually get more exhibition and distribution, it was more important to punctuate these points. This is the end of the episode. You can please follow us on our Instagram page at queenisdead.film podcast. You can follow us on Spotify. It helps us out to reach more people.
Yeah, I
More
think we have the
episodes
biggest
coming.
following there. If I'm
Yeah.
not wrong.
More people, please subscribe to it and follow us because more episodes are coming in the next few weeks. Some
Very
that has already
many.
been edited out and is just waiting for release. We're also waiting to
Quote
record
unquote edited out.
one battle after another episode, which will come out only when the film comes out on digital.
And when I
along with
don't
any
like
other
it.
release. Yes.
Eventually.
You can follow Chris on his Instagram page at PRD Chris and his letterboxd at Chris Slim. You can follow Amartya on his Instagram page at
ये
Amartya25.
सब डाल देंगे sir.
And also letterbox and Dhruv on his Instagram.
हाँ वही
Tamil
सब
Cinema.
कचरा. हाँ
The
हाँ
usual
कचरा
guys.
हाँ.
If you stuck around, you know the usual.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for
This is
sticking
another
around.
episode.
Thank you for sticking around. वही सबसे important
खत्म.
बात है.
खत्म.
खत्म.
कर दो खत्म सर.